Here we go. We are. What do you mean you could not find the stream? I literally selected the stream. What do you mean you couldn't find the stream?
And find it.
You literally found the stream. We're streaming on it right now. I can see that we're streaming on it right now. So OBS, why would you just lie to me like that?
No stream, not real.
And then we turn on Twitch and kick. Okay, those are. Oh wait, I don't have the pre-show thing on. We're on pre-show. We have not started yet.
Source.
My source is I'm host. I'm the host of the show. That's my source. Do I need another source? I didn't think so. Okay, and now we prepare the tweets, memes, blue skies, all the things. Oh my god. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, content alerts. We will not be having Justin this week or Anne this week. Anne messaged me and said that they're not going to make it. They also said that even though their pick is an extra book club, they don't want to right now. So they don't want to deal with being the next pick. So we'll probably just go back to a general vote after this one. Unless we're missing somebody. But I think we went through everybody. We did Justin, we did Arimia, we did you, we did This Is Me. So I think we got everybody from our usual circle. So we'll probably just go to the general votes again for a full series next.
Yep.
Or to continue a series we've read. We could read the next Mega Man. We could do that. You never know.
It could be good. It could be. That's the problem.
Probably. I wouldn't hold my breath on that. So we'll probably.
I know, but there's like a slight chance.
Listen, there's a slight chance an asteroid could hit. There's a slight chance of that.
Oh, so I actually played the PSP version recently of Mega Man X.
Yeah,
it's I don't know. It's pretty good. Also, it fixes the problem you have with the ammo not refilling when you die.
Yeah, what the fuck was up with that?
Like, whatever. Like, it's fixing the PSP version. That's the one I recommend.
Dog shit choices there. Why do they do that?
I don't know. Maybe you use ammo more effectively. Don't just waste it away.
But when you're doing the boss fight, what are you gonna do? Like, it doesn't spawn you to the beginning of the level, so you continue grinding to get it back. You're stuck in like the room before the boss room, so you can't even like
use it on the first attempt. I'm just saying.
What do you mean? This is the boss fight.
You have multiple lives to work with, but you can make use of them. You know, like try to figure out some sort of strategy.
How are you supposed to know when it's the last attempt?
You check your lives on the fucking pause menu.
You ever think? Okay. You ever think, hey, maybe if I use all my stuff, I use all my special ammo on this thing, it'll do a lot of damage and this fight could be done. So I don't have to do it 30 fucking times.
You have like
pretty fucking obvious.
Extra lives.
You can have more than that. You know that though, right?
I know. It's just
very easy to get more than that.
Okay,
the problem is if you're fighting the boss and you use your special ammo shit in the first or so fights and it doesn't kill him or you get killed, then you're fucked for the remainder of your time there. All of your lives are pretty much gone already because you can't leave that area until you lose all your lives. So yeah, that was one of my complaints with Mega Man X, okay? But one of many.
Or the other ones.
All those enemies I had to fight while climbing vertically. Fuck all that shit.
I can think of like one scenario, and it wasn't even that bad.
There was like at least 2, probably 3 times.
Okay.
And it was bad. I don't want to hear it.
Also, you didn't know the dash jump on walls, so I think there's that too.
You ever considered maybe the game was just dog shit? Have you ever considered
No,
that? You
course
should
not.
consider it because it's kind of dog shit. I won't lie to you.
What are you talking about?
I won't lie to you. I'm not here to lie to you, Walt. Don't lie to me, Walt.
I'm just saying. Oh, also, I forgot to mention this during when we did the fucking book review.
Uh-huh.
But I noticed a plot hole, another one. In the story.
No, a plot hole in Mega Man X?
The manga.
What could that possibly be?
Okay.
What was the plot hole?
So Flame Mammoth mentions how he's not a reploid, he's a mechanoid. Which means he has to abide by the 3 laws of robotics.
I don't feel like that means that he has to.
Yes, he's not a reploid, so he has to abide by the 3 laws of robotics.
I don't feel like that he has to. I feel like the laws are more just suggestions, you know.
They're not suggestions; they're literal rules baked in.
I don't know, man. I feel like they're like guidelines almost.
See, this is the difference between not playing and playing Mega Man 7 exactly.
Here's the difference between playing Mega Man X, where the only lore you get is if you had a guide and you read the guide, versus
manual. It comes in the fucking Legacy Collection too.
Bro, fucking when I'm playing it on Steam, I'm not getting a physical manual with it. What do you want from me?
It's in there. Fine.
I'm just saying, if I'm making a game, I'm not putting all the lore in the guide. I'm putting it into the fucking game in some way. The only lore I got out of the game itself was fucking not
Exposition
X.
at the very beginning.
Not X. What was the other guy?
Zero.
Zero. Zero shows up. He saves you, and then you get your ass kicked. You get your ass kicked. He saves you, and then the same thing happens through the end. Only he dies, and then something like that.
We also beat Vile though, so you know.
All I got out of it was Zero was a thing. You're supposed to feel emotional about him dying towards the end, and then you fight the big boss and his dog for some reason.
I've never get over the fucking dog. That's so dumb.
I don't even remember the dog in the manga. Was the dog in the manga?
It wasn't there, and you know what? I'm completely fine with it.
What do you got against dogs? What do you got against dogs?
Apparently, fuck, what was the guy that made JoJo again?
Araki something. You don't even know the name of the author. God, you just hate dogs. You have to kill them off to establish your bad guy's a bad guy. Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's a pretty effective way of establishing it.
I mean, then what about Mega Man X though? Then
that guy didn't kill his dog. That's how you know he's not a real villain. He can be changed. He didn't kill his dog. He has a dog. He can be changed. I can fix him. I can fix Sigma. Okay. I can fix him.
Sorry, he's too far gone.
I can fix him. I can do it.
That's the hope.
All right, so we're waiting on Miko and I believe Turndo, unless they messaged and told us. Nope, not yet. Okay, Justin posted the painting thing he's doing. Oh boy, we're doing stuff. I have not heard that Turndo is not going to be here, so as far as I know, Turndo is going to be here. But at the very least, if we have 3 people here, I want to do a show, which is going to be you, me, and Miko. So, because I know Miko's read it, or most of it at least. I saw on AniList they read like up to chapter 21 at least. They probably read all of it and just didn't mark the other ones yet.
I was like, oh no, don't tell me it's gonna happen again.
Because they read those, and then I also saw that they watched like the first 2 episodes in the anime, so.
Okay.
I read it all, and then I rewatched the first season of the anime to compare it more. Because there are things I noticed, and I'm going to go into this tonight. There were things I noticed that I have not noticed in all of my rewatchings and rereadings of this series in the past. And I don't understand how I didn't notice it before. because it's pretty big changes. I don't know why, but I think it's just because most of the other stuff is the same. So I don't know. But we'll go over that. We'll go over that. Meanwhile, I have the complete edition as well, which I've been flipping through just because it's nice. It's the fancy Japanese reprinting of the series that they're currently doing. Right now, the first volume is out, and the first volume covers 1 and 2. Exactly. So.
Cool.
But it's all in Japanese.
No, good Gozu?
Yeah, that's me. I understand all of it. Don't worry. Okay. Oh wait, also, what's his name said he might show up? Ace. That would be an interesting surprise guess if he actually did it. I want to bet at this point he probably forgot about it, but we'll see.
Like ping him for the comment.
You could try. You could go for it. I doubt if he remembered it. It says he's online though. So I don't know. I don't know if he read it. I will also at Turando and ask if he's coming tonight. You coming tonight?
I mean, usually doesn't miss it, so you know.
I just want to make sure because I know Ann and Justin weren't able to make it, so I'm trying to get an idea of when we should start or if we should be waiting on people still. Because my assumptions are right now is that the usual people that we have are going to show up, and unless they tell me otherwise. So, huh?
The usual people sans.
Yeah, I mean, well, I just mean in general. I usually assume like Miko and Justin, Turando, you, and I are going to show up at least. So that's like 6 people. And then if somebody tells me that they're not going to be there, then I know not to wait for them. That's pretty much the assumption I'm trying to go on every week. So for right now, we just know that Ann and Justin will not show up. So they won't be here this week. But as far as I know, everybody else should be. So.
Everyone's here.
Hello. Welcome.
Speak of the devil.
So now we're just waiting to see whether or not Turando will show up, and if we're going to get a surprise visit from Ace, who I don't think has been on a book club episode before.
It's actually Cope, though. You know it.
So I made a video on the After Dark channel at some point, and I think I was rambling about the Idle story merch and the new game complete edition stuff, and I had mentioned how I have a bunch of extra copies of New Game Complete Edition that I don't know who the fuck is going to want it because it's all in Japanese. There's not too many people who really are actively looking for volumes of New Game that I know of in my area anyways, let alone a Japanese copy of it.
In your area.
So it's just like...
Those were the ones you got for the extras, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I get multiple copies of these for all the extras, but you have to get them from different places to get the specific extras. So,
yeah.
And I did that. I do that for the Idle story volumes, and I did it for the New Game Complete Edition. So I have 3 copies of New Game Complete Edition, one of which is, of course, mine, and then 2 copies I don't know what the fuck to do with. One I might give to my brother, but Ace had asked in the comments if he could buy one of those copies off me at some point. And I was like, yeah, sure. Just let me know when you want to do that with. I don't know when or if that will ever happen, but like I have these extra copies of it. I don't know what to do with them because they're all in Japanese. So yeah, unless you're buying it just to, do the spaghetti strat. I'm just looking at the pictures.
Is that actually the spaghetti strat?
They bought Witch Hat before it got localized over here and tried to...
So Spaghetti bought the Japanese copies of Witch Hat Atelier, and she can't read Japanese. Like, she can read a little bit, but she can't read it enough to read a manga. So she just bought it to support the copy. But yeah, she has Witch Hat and she can't read it.
Based.
Made worse than death.
Listen, when it comes to Japanese-only media, I have a few. Not too many, but a few. I have the Idle Story ones, which I can read because I've been trying to read through for the translation stuff. So that stuff I can read, especially because that has furigana. All the other stuff I have does not have furigana, so I cannot read them. Like New Game Complete Edition, and I have the full Japanese edition of like the volumes of New Game. So I have all 13 volumes of the Japanese version of New Game, none of which has furigana because that was published in a seinen magazine, so they don't have furigana in those. And then I also have a couple copies of I have Komorebi no Kuni, which is their past series, which was never officially released in English, but there's your local video store has a copy of it in English. I have the Japanese versions of those. And then I have a couple volumes, I think, what would you call them volumes? Issues of Manga Time Kirara Karet, which is the 4-comma magazine that New Game was published in. So I have a couple copies of that over time. Most of which I don't think also have furigana, because I think in general that is a seinen magazine. That one's a lot trickier to read sometimes, but it's interesting to flip through them, because they're 4 commas. 4 commas are weird in that sometimes they're very easy, simple, there's not too much you have to read about them, or because they only have the 4 panels to work with and set amount of pages, they have to load every panel with a lot of text and connecting bubbles for the text, which is a thing that, even though this author has moved on to another series, which is not a 4 comma, he still has pretty much copied those traits in the new series, where there's a lot of text bubbles that have connecting bubbles that are awkward that don't need to be connecting bubbles. And he just does that because it's something he got used to from years of New Game. Do we have any updates?
Speaking of buying stuff for different languages, while I was in Italy, we found a bookstore, right? But everything's in Italian. But like, parents like, hey, we could translate it. So part of me was like, oh, I could start Chainsaw Man. And I didn't know going in what was going to happen. So, I'm glad I didn't, because that would have been weird.
Oh, wait, I'm confused. Going into translating Chainsaw Man?
No, because my parents would help translate because they know Italian.
Oh, I see. You're just reading Chainsaw Man with your parents and having to explain. Yeah, so Denji, I know he just said, I just really want to touch boobs, but like Denji is like so much deeper than that. You wouldn't understand, Mom, okay?
It's a metaphor. It's not, he doesn't actually want to do that.
I mean, it is actually supposed to be some like whole symbolic thing about like not having, just having simple idea. It's a whole thing. Listen, okay, listen, Mom, okay? It's very... You wouldn't understand it. You don't understand the complexity of Denji.
I wouldn't even go there. I just find him funny.
He's a funny guy. He
knows how to read accounting ledgers.
First, all he wants is jam with toast. It's not too much to ask for. Then he wants to touch a titty. That's all. I mean, like, these aren't too much to ask for. I mean, really,
they want
in this life?
For breakfast, which, okay.
Just breakfast. What's wrong with breakfast? Just like Walt Jr., right? So.
Steak. Hold on.
Wow. We have an interesting first-time chatter here. Hello, sorry for bothering you. I want to offer a promotion of your channel. Viewers, followers, views, chatbots, etc. The price is lower than any competitor. The quality is guaranteed to be the best. How do I ban? No reason. I'm just no reason, of course. I see a block button. Where's the ban button?
It's right next to it.
Ban. Boom. There you go. Don't worry. No worries, buddy. You just get the ban. No worries.
Just.
Okay. Let's see if we got any word from people. Nothing from Turndo. Nothing from Ace. So, my assumption is going to be that we're probably it for this week. Let me check Stream Elements to see if that's working. Or Streamlabs, I should say. Streamlabs to see if that part is working, at least. And then we'll probably just get started. If they show up later, they're more than welcome to join right in. But everybody ditched this week. Nobody liked New Game, I guess. It's very fucked up, guys.
I mean, it's really new if it's almost 10 years old.
Listen, there's a lot of things that were new.
Almost 10 years old.
It started in
It's
like
10 years old
2013.
in 2 days. Yeah, it's 10 years old in 2 days.
My God.
Oh my
Wait,
god.
oh wait, what the fuck? Wait, hold on. What the fuck am I thinking here? Hold on. Wait, I'm tripping again. Sorry.
I feel like you're
Almost
thinking
8
of something
years old.
else.
I'm thinking of something else.
Well, this is from 2013, so it already is 10 years old. This series.
Oh, okay. Then
The
what
manga,
fuck?
at least. I don't know if you're talking about the anime.
So it's already 10 years old. What the fuck? It's not even new. It's old, the game.
Truly, truly. I don't know what you were thinking of then. What the fuck were you thinking of?
The fuck was it 2016? 2014.
The war. The war happened.
So what war?
You know the war.
Okay, like actually
Canada played a main part in the war, I'll have you know.
this would have been history class. Cap. Just saying.
I don't feel like you paid attention to history class, you know?
Yes, I did. I got 90%.
Uh-huh. And yet
It's
you don't know
92.
what a mozzarella stick is. I feel like that's a vital part of history.
It's
Just
not.
saying. Okay, I'm seeing several new notifications on Streamlabs that should have shown up on that stream thing that I have on there that aren't showing up on there. Fix it. Make it make sense. What is going on here? Fams, what? All right, close this.
So
Alright,
while we
Zandman.
wait for a chap to fix his shit.
My ship?
Oh,
My ship?
no, your shit.
My ship?
Your
I don't have a ship.
No, you fix your shit, chap.
I'm not a pirate. I legally
But how you-
purchase my stuff. Okay,
How do you-
now I see the new entries in the program, but I don't see them on the actual stream. What is going on here?
Chap, if you don't have a ship, how you gonna catch your big one?
I just play my copy of Jack and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy. What more do you need?
Not fair.
Okay, how do I fix this? Events list. Make it make sense. It's supposed to... I don't even know. I don't even know why I bother with this fucking thing. I don't know why I bother with these programs. Why do I bother? I'm just going to turn this off because fuck you. You're just not going to show anything. Okay. Well, I tried to add a neat thing to the stream, but it hasn't worked for weeks and still is not working. Anyways, do we have any updates from people? Nope, we do not. All right, well, we tried waiting a bit. It is 8:08, so I think we should just get started. What are we thinking? We just want to get started with this? Let me close this.
Sure.
Thank you. We have a live studio audience here. Very impressive. Okay. All right. And then this. Okay, good. All right, let me turn off pre-show and we'll get started. Welcome, everybody, to another exciting week of the Anime Book Club here on Wolfborg, YouTube, whatever. Usually it's easy for me to say twitch.tv/Wolfborg with 2Gs, but I don't think you could do that with YouTube without it breaking things. Maybe you could do youtube.com with Wolfborg with 2Gs and see if it works. You can find me somewhere. Here, wherever you're watching it from, we're on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick at the same time. Some of those places, mainly Twitch, doesn't like the fact that I'm on all of them at the same time. I don't care. Get fucked. Anyways, we are doing what we usually do here on this channel for another week. This sounds like this is going to be the last week of our individual picks. Anne was supposed to be next, but Anne has told me in messages that they do not want to bother picking something next. So after this week, we'll probably go to general votes or whatever. But for this week, for my pick, I decided we're going to read the first 2 volumes of New Game, a much more lighthearted series compared to all the other stuff we've been reading lately. Okay, not as twisted as some of the other stuff.
Single series.
All of the other ones are very dark in some kind of way.
Talking about.
This is definitely a big mood changer here, okay? We're going to chill out with a 4-panel comic, okay? And it happens to also be one of my favorites of all time. Now, let's go over the guests we have here. As I mentioned before in the pre-show, we have a couple people who said that they were not going to be here. Justin and Ann could not make it here for various reasons. And Turando may or may not show up later, not sure. And Ace, friend of the stream, had mentioned that he was also interested. Don't know if he remembered we were doing this today. So maybe he shows up later, maybe not. I don't know. But for right now, we at least have 3 people, which means we have a show. So let's go through everybody here, starting with Arimia. Introduce yourself.
Hi,
Exciting.
I'm Arimia. Hi, I'm Arimia. I like shonen shit. Everyone should read D Gray Man, which has a new chapter coming out in about 2 weeks.
What will happen if I don't read D Gray Man?
You die.
You will always think that shonen is mid.
Is that an accurate
instead of
assumption to make?
good. No, because if you read D Gray Man, you'll actually find good shonen.
Is that true? Is that true?
Yeah.
Chat, is this true? I don't know. I'll have to poll the chat later.
I'm chat, yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the confirmation there. Okay, I just had to make sure. Sometimes I can't trust the panelists that we have on here. I don't. I have to.
There's
ask the
biases,
chat. Yeah. True. And next up, you have myself, the host with the best opinions and the best anime and manga recommendations, especially when it comes to New Game. That's me. That's what I brought to the table. That's all you ever need. So, I run the channel. I do the things. I don't know what else to say other than I also write anime articles, which you can read on Jotaku Network, which will, at some point this year, be getting a rebranding, so it'll be under a new name whenever I finish the details on the back end about that. So keep an eye for that kind of stuff in the future. And in the meantime, we'll still be doing videos here, especially the podcast stuff, but occasional scripted videos on here. So we'll see how that goes throughout this year. And then we have Shadowman V4. Introduce yourself, buddy.
I have Shadowman V4. I play Mega Man shit a lot. This Monday, I'm doing Mega Man Matter Hunter X, but with a twist. It's that Nyan picks the stage order.
Oh my god.
And it's on Hell on Earth.
Oh my god, collab stream. Hell yeah. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I've been doing it for the other games with Nyan, so, I also make funny thumbnails sometimes.
The funny meme thumbnails. We're here for it. We're here for it. All right. So this week we're talking about the first 2 volumes of New Game. How did we feel about this? Obviously, I have a lot of thoughts I could say, but let's start with what you guys thought first. What thoughts do we have here? Who wants to go first?
It was alright. No, I'm kidding. I liked it.
All right. Good show. Good
It
show.
was cute. It was cute. That's it.
It's very cute. The cute girls did in fact do cute things in an environment, a work dev environment.
I am not the type for moe art styles, like the super exaggerated moe
Yeah.
like this.
Right.
The last manga I read that was a pretty similar art style. I don't remember what it was. It was a Yuri about some theater actor. I didn't like it. But I didn't like it for 2 reasons. One, the art style was overly moe, but also very novice. And 2, the story was just very much just too cutesy, too fluff, not content. And New Game is the opposite of both of those. Even though it's a very moe art style, you can tell that the artist is still a very good artist. It does take a lot of skill to be able to do anatomy mostly correctly with such few lines. And it does have a lot of just story going for it. Just a lot of I don't know how to describe it now. It's not just cutesy fluff. It feels like each of the characters are really thought out and such.
Yeah, I will say, with that point you made about some other like 4 series as well, like some of the other ones that are in that Manga Time Kirara Carrot magazine where it's a lot of moe focused, usually Yuri implied kind of stories. They do the kind of thing that you mentioned where it's cute girls doing cute things, but like a lot of time the art proportions are like weirdly, I mean, they're just trying to do a cutesy thing, but they're not like very clearly following like the structure of something. So sometimes the art can seem and appear amateurish, but their kind of appeal is more just trying to carry the cutesy vibes and not really caring much about telling a kind of story. Whereas the New Game, like you said, the artists can definitely draw, and I knew this from their previous series, which you'd probably like a lot too, just because of like the aesthetic of it, Komorebi no Kuni, which is set in a, I don't want to say Victorian times, I want to say something in between Victorian times and like something else. I don't remember if it was fantasy full out.
Late Industrial Revolution era. Huh.
It labeled itself that, and so it was more like that, but it was also kind of a slice of life. It wasn't like very drama based. You'd probably like it just for the aesthetics and the art, maybe, but that one's just kind of different in terms of like it didn't really have too much of a focused story or like focused character developed kind of things. Whereas New Game was definitely a series where they were doing that. Komorebi no Kumi was this author Shotaro Tokuno's first manga, as far as we know online at least, their first ever manga work, which I think went for like 5 volumes, which I don't believe was a 4-comma. It was just a flat out manga series. And prior to that, they had gotten their start. Well, first they started off as a character designer for a game company called Tri-Ace, which is where a lot of the influence for New Game comes from. They did character designs and 3D modeling for at least 2 games they've been credited in. Valkyrie
Star
Profile.
Ocean stuff.
Yeah, Star Ocean, The Last Hope, and Valkyrie Profile 2 Silmeria, which I started playing Silmeria this week because I had found out about that and I was like, you know what, I never actually checked that out, so let me check that out. And then I realized quickly, oh, I'm not going to actually know which of these designs are theirs, am I? Rip. But still, I'm trying to play it. That's pretty fun. And I also bought a copy of that Star, that other game, the Star Ocean or whatever. What was it called? Last Hope something. I got a copy of that as well.
Star Oceans.
Specifically, they were credited for one of them, so I bought that because that was on Steam. My only concern is that's like a 4K remaster of it, but to play the original would be to buy an Xbox 360 old copy of it. I don't know if I want to do that, so I'll try that out at some point too. But Silmeria is interesting because it definitely felt, like there were definitely times where I could feel the inspiration for the villagers that they're making in the game, in New Game. I'm rambling a lot about the author's history, but I really should pause to hear quickly about what Shadow thought first. Shadow, what were your overall first impressions of the series?
I enjoyed it, although I don't think it's for me. I'll be honest.
That's fair. New Game is not really a series that I like recommend to a lot of people as like, this is something to where like I really enjoy it and some people can really hold on to it, but it's not something, especially this first volumes where a lot of it is more kind of setup. The later volumes get a lot more into like actual conflicts that are happening. I think like the most conflicts we had in this series, there was like 2 cases. One was Nenechi accidentally eating Ko's pudding, which is like, okay, this is a quote unquote conflict, but really there's nothing bad in the end. And then the other one was when Nenechi has an actual fight with Aoba. Those are like the 2 actual conflicts that we have. And even then, the author doesn't really, whenever they do, especially towards the beginning of this, whenever they're writing like a conflict thing, they're trying to make it more kind of like a lighthearted kind of conflict. Like you understand both sides of it. It's not the end of the world, no matter how it really goes, because in the end, you kind of have the understanding that things will be fine. And then it has like a very heartfelt way of like making it all get closed. With some of the stuff that happens in the later volumes, I won't get too much into details, but there's a lot more stuff related to, career kind of oriented goals and worries, especially when it comes to like being an artist in a field where there are other artists that are better than you and you're very critical of your work and how much effort you put in because of it. There's a lot more of that later on in the series, especially when they introduce some new characters that are brought in the second season of the anime, specifically another character designer character who immediately does not like Aoba for other reasons related to their first impressions or whatever, but that's a whole thing. Yeah, true. So, I fully understand why this is not something that is easy to recommend to everyone, but it is something to where I feel like if you're somebody who does not mind slice of life kind of stuff, this is definitely a pretty good read, but slice of life is not for everybody in general, I feel. So, The other thing too is this is a 4 comma. Now I believe Arimia, you've read 4 commas before, right?
Yep.
Shadow, I don't believe you have. This is your first time reading a 4 comma, right?
I mean, I've read like 3-4 manga in total, so yeah.
That's true. You've only read whatever we've been reading here. In this
Oh no. Okay, so ReZero, Chainsaw Man, Mashal.
You're at the ReZero manga? Oh damn.
Yeah. I had a lot of time during religion class.
Oh, okay.
Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, and then also this, and then whatever.
You read Lucifer? I haven't even read Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer. I might read that.
I have like the first 2 volumes. Pretty good so far.
That's one
anime.
That's the anime was not well handled for that. That was the main thing I heard. Yeah. So I mean, I'll definitely check that out. But yeah, a 4 comma, with 4 panels each strip. It in some cases, with some series, they deal with like a whole story in the 4 panels. In other cases, like this, you're telling each page in the 4 comma, but the chapter itself is like a whole story. So you could take an individual like those 4 panels and like post it somewhere. But in some cases with this, you won't really. It's supposed to be connected to the one that's next to it. And that's kind of the deal with the magazine this was published in. I think all of those series are 4 commas, all of which do this similar thing where it's like 2 4 comma panels on each page, and they get a set amount of pages to do their chapters. Whereas something like Tomo-chan is a Girl, that one is set up to be more of like each panel is like one comic that each comic gets a title for and everything like that. And sometimes those are published like once a week. This is published monthly. This one was published monthly. So each chapter came out once a month as part of the magazine. So
I've read a few.
Yeah, go on. No, go on.
I was just gonna say I've read a few like actual 4 commas. I think I read there's a few Fate ones that are just like chibi, cutesy, funny spin-offs that are 4 commas. And
is Cooking with Emiya a 4 comma or?
Let me check.
That's one that I always assume will be a 4 comma, but I have no idea. Today's menu for the Emiya family. Yeah, it doesn't look like
it's just a regular manga.
Okay.
I also read Spy Family. I forgot about that.
Is what?
I've also read Spy Family.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so sorry to interrupt. I didn't know if that was the one you were referring to.
No, it's some other like older ones. But Sasaki and Miyano is not technically, I don't think. It's like basically because it got Sasaki and Miyano was a Pixiv comic. And it sort of has a 4 comma style, but instead of the 2 rows of 4, it's just 1 row of 4 that covers the entire page. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's how Tomo-chan's a Girl did it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a small episode for each of them, though sometimes they roll over into the next page.
Yeah, My Poison Princess is still cute. That's a manga I read a couple weeks ago from Yen Press that also did that, where it's like 4 panels on 1 page, and usually it's like trying to follow a certain there's a certain structure, the names of the stage of which I forget, but there's supposed to be a planned thing that you're supposed to do with each of these 4 panels specifically to tell a story in a certain way, where like things get concluded, but like maybe there's a twist on the 3rd panel, stuff like that. But yeah, when it's something like this where they're, you're in that format, but you're also not limited to just that 4 panels for 1 page. Like you have it for like a whole chapter it has to tell a story for. There's different ways that you can play around with that kind of idea. When you know that there's going to be 2 panels on each strip, or like each page is going to have 2 strips of panels, you can mess with like, okay, well, I know this one's going to be on the right, then on this 3rd panel on the left, I could do this kind of thing. And they kind of do that a couple times with this manga. That's like more notable. Like there's when they go drinking, and on the right side, Rin is just like looking at the drink Alba pours for her, and is like, what is this? And on the right side, or the left side of that, it's like her pointing, see, this is how you're supposed to do it. And they're like almost the exact same kind of thing, but just like posed a little differently. Things like that is like some things that you can mess around with. I will say there are some weird things with the versions that you two might have read. So the very first pages of the volumes have colored pages. Some of the beginning parts of some of the chapters after that first page are supposed to be colored, but they aren't. They will look shaded weirdly for a couple pages, and then they go to the usual style. I don't know why they were like that with the original printing, because
the ones that are black and white but shaded.
Yeah, those ones are. I have to look into the history of why that is, because Manga Time Kirara Carrot does not print color, so I don't know why those were done. I understand why at the beginning of the physical print of the volume, but I don't understand why for those ones, because I believe it's like that in the actual Manga Time Kirara Carrot volumes too. And in the New Game Complete Edition, which is what I have here as well, the Japanese Complete Edition, those are actually colored, but that was only done as of this year. They've been doing this process for the past few months on Comic Fuse digitally and now physically with this release. Those pages were not actually colored before, but they were very clearly meant to be colored, which is a weird thing that I always noticed about this series. But they did that a couple times with the English release of this series too, and they probably did on whatever versions you both might have read. Your physical copies of it never arrived in time, I'm assuming, right?
No, I think they're still in Indiana.
Well, now you'll get them tomorrow. A nice little gift.
It'll probably be Saturday when I'm gone.
Damn, based.
Yay.
Anyways, I've just realized we've gone this far, not actually talking about the general premise of the series, I guess.
So it's a game, and it's a brand new one.
It's a new one. It's a brand new one.
Okay, but it's over 10 years old, though. It's not new.
It's brand new. Just ask Todd Howard. It's a brand new game.
He's the main villain.
True.
Prove me wrong.
New Game is all about waifus doing game dev, specifically. It is in an office environment. It is a 4-comma comedy / workplace / hinted Yuri kind of story.
No, they're gay. They are gay.
It like when I say hinted, I mean for legal purposes. I guess the manga dex does not list it as girls' love. When you read this, it's like these two are pretty much wives already. Like Ko and Rin. Like,
you know, that flew right over my head, to be honest.
There were several panels.
Ow!
Listen, Shadow.
She even makes a joke of like, "Oh yeah, she broke up with me." No, I was kidding.
Let me just put it like this, Shadow. When they showed these extra comics of their days off, Ko's day off is sleeping in. Rin's day off is going to Ko's house to feed her because she's sleeping in. So
this changes my friendships entirely.
You might be in a Yuri relationship and you don't realize it, you know.
This too is Yuri.
No, yeah, I mean, I won't spoil things for what happened later, but yeah, theirs is like the most prominent. But you're also getting hints with all the other girls of like their different relationships, especially as time goes on. It's not a series that's focused on their relationships, which is why it's not like, you know, the main focus of the series. And they kind of do the same thing with Idol Story as well, with the characters. But as a reader, you know, you could feel what's going on there with some of that. It's kind of like the deal with Bocchi the Rock, where you could very clearly tell that's going on too, but fans lose their mind at the implication of that going on. What do you mean? Shadow, we watched Bocchi the Rock together.
Okay.
One of the girl literally said, "I only wanted to do this to be with that person."
Yeah, hold on. I was thinking. I guess that's redhead girl. Yeah.
Which Bocchi the Rock is also from Manga Time Kirara Carrot, the same exact magazine, and I also have the physical, and that's also 4-comma. So yeah, it's pretty much that's kind of that magazine's deal. Most of the issues that are in it are like that. So
Shadow would be like the main character of Sasuke and Miyano, who would read BL for like years and go, "Huh? I've never thought about guys."
Where's the BL? I don't.
Oh man, because this changes my friendships entirely.
All right.
No,
Well,
this is a joke to say national crisis. You understand?
yeah, the national crisis of Canada. So it's not that bad, you know. It's a Canadian crisis.
Yeah, it's a
so,
fake
yeah.
country anyway.
So, like I was saying, New Game is about the work environment, specifically when it comes to game development. Now, it's called New Game, not just because they're making a new game, but because Aoba Suzukaze, the main character, is embarking on essentially a new phase of her life. She is a fresh out of high school, going into the work environment, character designer or artist in training kind of deal, where she's already got her foot in the door at a company called Eagle Jump, and she's already working on it with a team towards the end of the cycle with I think she worked there for the last 6 months of a game that they were working on that they shipped towards the end of these first 2 volumes. Like I mentioned before, these first 2 volumes covers the first season of the anime, which I also rewatched all of in this past week to compare the two, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, Alba's thing, especially when it starts off, is she's fresh out of high school, so she's already going to look young. Plus, she also naturally looks young. So she's trying on multiple levels to try to be more mature than she appears. So she shows up to work in this suit that does not the attire at the office is very much a lot more casual than showing up in a suit, especially if you're an artist. And the suit for her makes it look like it's a school uniform, which is a joke that I think Ko makes at some point. But the whole and then she shows up and she's nervous about whether or not she can even go into the office because she's am I really allowed to just go in there? Because so you very much get this idea that she's very fresh, and that's also a part of her name. Alba means fresh leaf or something like that, and the sakura blossoms in her hair and the fact that it's spring when this starts, all of it is symbolic of the fact that this is some new step in her life, and she's transitioning from being somebody who was in school the whole time and being a kid to now having to be a part of the adult world. She doesn't even know what holiday pay is. She's never gotten a salary check before or any kind of check before. Things like that where she's just in this new environment. She has no clue how to properly interact with some of these coworkers and everything, but she's doing her best with it. Okay, she does her best. And that's kind of the premise that we have to go with. She's a part of the graphic design team, and she's getting to know all the different members of it. And there's a lot of different characters that we can talk about. There's so many. Oh boy. Just in the first 2 volumes, and then there's even more afterwards. Remy, were you going to say something? I don't know if you were going to say something.
No.
Okay.
My favorite, but I will say something.
Yes.
My favorite character, who do you think my favorite character is?
I want to say maybe either Rin or Yoon, maybe.
No.
Okay. Is it
I like
Ko?
Yagami. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yagami Ko. Yagami Ko is... You want to tell the podcast about Yagami Ko? Tell us about her.
She is a workaholic, but she is, I think she is she's not the art director because that's Rin.
Yeah, she's the lead
yeah.
character designer. So she's the lead of the character designers.
So she is a art director in a sense, but not the art director.
Right.
She is, so she's the manager for Oba and a few of the other main characters. And she's cool.
Why don't you tell us about her introduction? What was it?
Her introduction is a bit much.
That was the one thing I had to put a warning when I recommended this because I didn't want people to get turned off by that because that's not what the rest of the series is about. She opens with a panty shot scene, so yeah.
Yeah, because she likes to sleep in the office, but she also likes to sleep in her underwear. Aside from that little character quirk, she is a very determined worker, and she is very I don't know how to describe it. Not studious, but she tries to get the best work out of her employees. Obviously she's not the company runner, but she's the boss of these few people. And she also she's not coddling them, but she's also not pushing them too hard. it feels like a good balance of like being a boss, but also being their friends, being their mentor.
Yeah, she's trying to find like the right balance between it because she was made an art director before, I think. And something happened. They didn't tell us the exact details of it here, but they said things kind of fell apart during it. So that was like an experience that she did not like about that. So she's very nervous about doing that kind of thing again. So right now she's just kind of staying in the lead character designer kind of position, but she's trying to find like a better way to deal with other, because prior to when she first got started there, and Hifumi was talking about this as well, Ko used to be, or Rin and Hifumi used to talk about how she used to be. Ko was kind of like more like, I do my work, it's good. I don't know how to properly like interact and deal with other people though. So her in like this management position is her trying to like get more used to how do I balance being a chill kind of manager and making sure we get our shit done. And how do I encourage them without demotivating them? Because I'm assuming that's more what happened. People would get demotivated by their work getting compared to Yagami's, and then she doesn't know how to properly help them out of that. So what she's doing with Alba is trying to like balance it in a way to where like, I see the potential you have, but how do I get you to keep wanting to pursue this without getting like sad at like comparing your work to mine, or like not thinking, oh, this is good enough because it's a background character. Nobody cares, right? Like she can see that Alba has things that she can do better, and she wants to kind of get her on the path towards wanting that herself, as opposed to like being forced into it and all that. It was kind of like my kind of vibe. But yeah, I definitely felt like that, where like her interaction was like a little in between a strict manager versus like a chill kind of coworker. Just trying to maintain that balance in a way because of like, I want to inspire, you know, the best out of my workers as opposed to like leading them through fear and stuff like that. So,
but also not coddling them.
Yeah, right.
I think she's cool.
I think she is too. I think she is
and gay.
Like, definitely. I wanted to also say her introduction, the panty shot scene in the anime is like 10,000 times gayer, because when she stands up, I think you watched the first 2 episodes, right? I saw that on AniList.
Yeah, and Oba's like all blushy and stuff.
Yeah, there's like a weird like special effect thing. There's like a heart floating around or whatever, and then there's like.
To be fair though, I think most people would do that if you saw
True.
I think that's
Most people.
I don't think that's
most people, unfortunately.
uncommon reaction. You'd either be grossed out or you'd be like super embarrassed, you know.
Yeah. So so Alva has like the Doki Doki kind of vibe, especially in the anime. Upon immediately meeting Ko. However, she's a little too late because her and Rin are kind of immediately established to be a thing already. So you're not too kind of worried about like the competition. She didn't know at first too. Yagami Ko is Alba's role model in characters. Mm-hmm. She's loved the series that she's worked on there, Fairy Story, which very much feels like inspired by Final Fantasy. Yagami Ko, right out of high school as well, and also started working and had been the character designer for Fairy Story. So Alba didn't even know that this person that she just met, who was like slept over at the office and was like sleeping around in the office in her panties, that like she's just had this encounter with, is actually her role model and has been for like many years. It's kind of like, you know, a reminder of things like that last volume or manga, the I Am a Hero one, where sometimes the geniuses are kind of like a little quirky in some kind of ways, you know, sleeping around the office in your panties, stuff like that.
A little.
But it's not like to the insane degree that I Am a Hero was, you know, so. But that's Yagami Ko and her whole her thing. She has a lot of each of these characters have a ton more that's done with their characters past these initial 2 volumes. Ko's arc, I won't say too much about it, but it's an interesting arc. I enjoy what happens with her arc. And Alba's as well, and most of them pretty much, especially towards the beginning of the next stage, now that they're done with the game. Some people get promoted, some people get moved around, some people during their interviews, they like ask them like, what are you looking towards doing? So after these volumes, there's like a lot more set up for the development of them. These first 2 volumes are more like an introduction for each of them. You had Ko, who's the character team lead. Alba is the new hire. She's like the only new hire. Hajime and Yoon who started at around the same time. Yoon is another character designer, works on the monsters. Hajime is not a part of the character designer team. She's a part of the motion team, but she's in the same kind of cubicle area as them because there wasn't enough space with the animation department. So she's sitting there with them, and she's considered like a regular part of the group. And then Hifumi is like the quiet kind of. I want to say, I don't think they focus on it too much here. She obviously does character design, but she, at least from the later ones, she seems focused on more of like the textures kind of designs and like making some of the models like touched up is what I felt like. That was kind of like her focus. Whereas like Yoon is more focused on monsters. Hajime is focused on like moving the models. All of them, by the way, are dealing with both designing these characters or monsters and then 3D modeling them. Which is a thing that there are a couple of things with New Game that people criticize immediately when you get started with it. Because obviously it's a cute girls doing cute. It's like cutifying the game dev industry in some ways, showing it a very idealistic angle, despite the fact that you're immediately introduced to somebody who has very clearly stayed overnight at the office. Was it by her choice? Yes. But still, it's not a thing that should be allowed to happen. Things like that. The other big thing that people point out, the fact that Alba was able to get a job at a game company immediately after high school, there are a couple things about that. That's not actually too unrealistic. It's not too unrealistic with caveats. Most of the people who were saying that were programmers, which of course is probably going to be a lot different. Artists specifically, at least in Japan, going to school may help, but it's more so going to help because you'll have a portfolio built by the time you're done. The portfolio seems like what you live and die by with that kind of thing. So it's not that, and especially with some article, I read an article that was specifically about New Game where they questioned somebody from Crunchyroll I think it was Cannibal Effect, who's a big anime YouTuber who recently retired along with Tom Scott and everybody else, I guess. So he questioned a Japanese/English game dev about how New Game compares. And the main things between that and some other interview that I saw with people who were also looking at it that were from Japan is that the unrealistic things about New Game aren't really the fact that they're straight out of high school for various reasons. One, being an artist, if you have a good portfolio, doesn't usually matter. And then two, Japan's culture kind of makes it so that if you're newer, they kind of value that more than if you had left some other job. And they usually assume that they have to train you up anyway. So the whole training on the job kind of thing is not unheard of either. But the main big thing...
Imagine being trained on the job.
I know. But the main thing is the main thing that they all said was the fact that all of the women in the office, like all of the people in the office are women. That's probably the most unrealistic thing about this show with the game industry in Japan, because most of it is men. But they did say that when it comes to like art stuff, sometimes it usually does lean towards women. And we do focus more on the art side of this company. There are a couple programmers that we see. I think in the anime, you definitely see men that work at the company, but I don't think you actually see any men that work in the company in the manga. Most of that is more just because they don't want to draw men. The artist, I don't think, just wanted to draw men. I think was the main thing. But, I mean, there's a reason for it that's brought up later, for like the lore excuse for why they don't hire men. I think it was the director girl, who we don't meet till the end of the volume, said, oh, basically I didn't want there to be office romance issues. And then they all turn out to be gay. So that kind of backfired.
The sus meter.
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, so that was pretty much the main thing that they all kind of said was kind of unrealistic, was that, and the fact that Alba starting off with 3D modeling the characters is probably also a bit unrealistic. They would eventually get to that point, but not to start. They would not be they would start them off with an already made model that you're going to like make adjustments to or polish. you will not be starting them from, here's a pre-made character, make the model from scratch. Here's a model that's pretty much done, make a couple tweaks to it based on these comments we have for you. That's kind of more what they said you'd start off with, and then after you get used to that, then they might give you a project where you're working on like, you know, that kind of thing, and then eventually you get into like the actual character design stuff. But obviously with this, they kind of, you know, didn't want to waste too much time with that kind of process. So we jumped immediately to, here's a character, build it from scratch, even though you've never used 3D stuff before. Ko basically says, here's a copy of Autodesk guide. Read the first chapters. Okay, bye. Is her style of teaching Alba, which she figures out and she gets to work. And she asks Hifumi for advice sometimes through text message because Hifumi is too shy to talk to directly sometimes and gets a little quirky with the text messages. So I mean, I liked the whole kind of like look into that where it's like, okay, here's a process for how we're going to get you trained. Here's a book, read it. Not the best way to train, but it's a way for people to learn. Here's a thing, test out the stuff in the book. Once I know you've gotten through it, here's a project for you to do. The project she starts her off with, it's kind of a big hurdle where she's like, all right, here's a design, build a 3D model out of it from nothing. It's kind of a big hurdle since you've just given them a book and said good luck.
But also it's characters and not like objects in the world.
Yeah,
it's not
objects,
like items.
Exactly, yeah. Like, I understand the goal because she's on the character design team, you want them to do that. I have to assume either one of two things. One, they just kind of skip that middle step of having her do the polishing stuff so that we already get the interesting like stuff already at the beginning of her trying to grow and learn from that. Or two, if we ignore that and we just assume because they're towards the end of the cycle, the company is just like, listen, we understand you might not have experience with it, but we need you to do it anyways because we don't have time for this stuff. Which we do find out. We do find out they screwed up the count for how the schedule would work for the artists doing the character models and stuff. So they do have to stay overnight or work weekends a couple times. Especially, there's a lot more times where they have to stay overnight towards the launch that we don't really see too often, but they tell us about. So we know that there is that going on. They do cutify it, so it's not like as bad as it might actually be in the industry. But you know, it's kind of a thing where it's like they're kind of asking you to do it in some way, but like you're not really being forced. But the implication is we have to get this done because this has to be launched then, and you care about the game, don't you? You care about getting your work done, don't like. There's and like the story presents itself as a way it's like, well, these characters actually do care about their work, so yeah, they're gonna do it. But like, as the reader, you're just like, well, and you share the same view that Nenechi has when she gets introduced later, where she is on these calls with Alba, hearing her say, why are they having you stay overnight again? And she gets so worried that she starts like working there part-time to like investigate the company, be like, is this a black company? Are they like abusing you in some way? But it's like, no, it's a nice company, but like crunch is crunch, you know, it's like that kind of vibe.
Gotta get done.
Yeah. And Nenechi's arc is very interesting. Nenechi was like a background like friend character who I almost assumed, because I understand Hifume's hedgehog is kind of like the mascot that the author uses. Mm-hmm. But for a while, I just assumed
Sojiro?
Yeah, Sojiro, the hedgehog that the author uses to communicate in the afterwards. I had just assumed Nenechi was kind of like the author's stand-in in some kind of areas for like where he wanted to comment on a couple things or like his interest in programming. That was my assumption, mostly because for many years he used Nenechi photos as like his avatars online. So I just kind of assumed like, oh, he just really relates to Nenechi. That's probably him. And Nenechi goes on like a whole thing where it's like, first they started off doing debugging kind of work and working directly more with Umiko, the programmer. And then in the later volume, she's like, well, I'm not an artist, so the only real thing I could really do is, because I'm going to school, maybe I could start learning programming. And then her whole thing is trying to learn programming. And that's like a lot of like season 2 is her trying to get more experience with programming, get started with that kind of work. So
gross.
Can you imagine programming? Speaking of programmers, Umiko. Umiko is one of my favorites. She is the very
Not Hajime?
Hajime is obviously my favorite. Okay, but
I was gonna say,
Umiko
wait a minute, it doesn't make
one-
any sense.
Umiko is one of my tops for the characters that we got here. All right, Umiko, very funny, very like I don't want to deal with this bullshit kind of attitude. I just want this program to work. We have a bug. I'm slamming my fist on the table. That means we got to work, stay the night. Fuck this shit. Go get me some energy drinks. Also, I have airsoft guns. I'm just gonna shoot them around the office. Hey, you like airsoft, right? Why don't we go for the shootout later? We can go for some shooting. You want
It's your chance to be a big shot, kid.
Here's my gift to you. Here's an empty shotgun shell. I got it from an American. Cherish it.
American.
So she's really like, I think she's cool. There's two things, two characters. I mean, her and the director Kazuki. I believe her name was Kazuki. The director girl. Those two are introduced far earlier in the anime. When I was comparing the two, far earlier. Episode 1, they're introduced.
Because I was reading the manga, and I had the anime on my TV while I was doing work stuff.
Yep.
And I look up and I see Umiko and the director, and I'm like, wait, what?
It's like, what are you doing here? What? And so,
get here.
And there was another one, the cat. The cat in the New Game anime is nowhere in the manga in these first 2 volumes. And that confused me. Like I said, I had rewatched New Game so many times, and I reread the manga like at least 2 times. I never noticed this difference until I was comparing them for this. That cat is an anime original character that was afterwards introduced into the manga. It was an anime original idea that the author then brought into his work. And I'm assuming that change, along with the director being introduced early and Umiko being introduced early, were ideas brought on by the author as well as maybe the director of the anime, because Shotaro Tokuno was a direct part of the anime. The 9th or 8th episode of the anime is an originally written episode only thing, written by them, like storyboarded by them. So they're definitely a part of the anime project. They were directly a part of it. So I have to assume some of those ideas were probably from the author, where like Umiko and the director, he's like, okay, with where I'm at in the manga, I understand these characters now, and I understand how they would interact with everybody else. So maybe for the anime project, we can introduce them earlier. And I feel like it worked well-ish for what they were supposed, because like until they're actually introduced, they're like thrown in as like little extras in sometimes, as like, oh, here's like a little quick gag that was not there in the original comic. The director shows up, says hi to Alba and her cat, and then gets shot by Umiko, says, hey, we have a meeting. You're late for the meeting. Get going. Like things like that. Or like when they're out drinking and the director kind of just shows up at the drinking party. It's like, what are you doing here? You weren't here at all. And she just kind of drinks, eats, and then leaves or something. Oh, actually, I think she stays around to the end for the first one, but there's one later. But so that was some of the main differences between the anime and the manga, where those characters are introduced a lot earlier. The cat is a completely anime original thing, which is then later integrated into the manga. And I feel like those changes with the anime were a pretty good choice. I'll have to compare to see how season 2 is in comparison to the other volumes and see how that goes, because I am interested to see what they tweaked about those. But yeah, Umiko is pretty cool. The director, reading the manga now and being like, oh, they introduced her and she seems pretty level-headed and nice and sweet, and then like compare it to how she is in the anime and how she eventually immediately becomes in the manga, she's like almost the perverted director, like that is just making these weird comments to some of the girls, like, oh, that's very cute, like, and I think it's some of the volumes later, they literally feel like she's sexually harassing them in some kind of way, and they're trying to do things to like stop her from doing the thing that she does. Basically, I felt like if that director character was changed into a male character with the later stuff, she would feel like a fucking, what are they called? The was it Blizzard or League of Legends? Or it's probably both, where they had like sexual harassers
Actually,
at the work.
both.
You know, so I mean, overall, she's supposed to be like a nice lady who's like just trying to promote these girls to do their best. But then she's also trying to fuel the fan servicey scenes. which with her boss position makes it feel kind of awkward, just a little bit. But we don't see any of that in the manga. I just wanted to comment that for if you ever try the anime out more, especially the first 2 episodes, or the first season, I mean, for like compared to the first 2 volumes, because she's just shows up towards the end. She's like pretty nice sounding. And then like, I think immediately in the next volume, we just completely see what her character is actually like. And it's like, whoa, what the fuck is all this? What other characters we got here? Hifumi is the quiet, other character designers. The first coworker that Alba got to actually talk to, quote unquote, where like they said hi to each other, but Hifumi is like super duper shy and like at first says, oh, let me know if you have any questions, but then when Alba tries to ask, she's like nervous about talking to her to the point where she just kind of gives up. And then like their boss has to be like, you should try messaging her on Instant Messenger, our chat program. And then she does, and then like she's like one of those types where she's super shy in real life, but in text she's like sending you like emote faces and yeah, ooh and stuff like that. And then Alba's like, oh, so this is okay to do. And then she does that to Ko. And Ko's like, yeah, could you not do that to me? What? I'm your boss? I don't know if you knew this. But yeah, cute little scenes like that. Those 2 are the ones that are on the cover together of the Complete Edition Volume 1. They're playing games together in this cover. I'm looking at it right in front of me. It's pretty cute. It's pretty nice. That's Hifumi. And then Yoon. Now, Yoon, what version of the manga did you 2 both read? The translation. Did you see what kind of translation of Yoon did you get? Did you see the accent, or did you read a version that did not have an accent?
I don't remember an accent.
I remember.
Okay, so if you read the Seven Seas translation, she's supposed to have a Kansai accent. How Seven Seas officially translated it was giving her a Cockney accent. So she's literally like, oh, what's all this then? Mio hick me in the gabber. Like, is what like her like relatives are saying, shit like that. They literally gave her like a Cockney. That was why I was saying in the chat, like the main difference between the translations is her accent. We had talked about how some translations handle that kind of accent before when it came to Summertime Rendering. Summertime Rendering was like, oh, we'll just say woke and stuff like that. Like do weird word changes. And for Yoon, they just gave her a Cockney accent. So, which makes her, it's hilarious because that's like the official translation too. It's not like a fan translation, which I think the fan translations probably just didn't do anything with that. Which is fine if you're doing a fan translation, I guess. But yeah, that was
accents are so hard to get in translations.
Yeah.
Like not to bring it back to D-Gray, man, but like, you know, they're British. And some of them
oh, no.
have accents, and it is interesting to see the different translations put in the like oys and stuff.
You still hate it?
Oh, you got a permit for that? You got a license for that permit?
There's really a balance that's so hard to hit with those kinds of accents.
Yeah. So yeah, Yoon is a lot of that. Yoon is also the type of person who tries to hide a lot of they don't try to be upfront about like some of the things that they're very self-conscious about. Like she's very self-conscious in several chapters about gaining weight. So she's like wearing like long sleeve clothes, even though it's like melting in the office, because they don't want them to see like the fat on her arms, I guess. They go to the doctors for the exam and she's like, they're doing the measurements of her waist and she's like trying to hold her breath in to like hold in her stomach to make it less. And then the doctor's like, all right, I see what you're doing. So all done, quote unquote. And she's, and she's, all right, now I can take the real, measurement. And then she just skips away being like, yeah, I did my weight thing. I cheated the system, kind of almost. She has 2 siblings that she takes care of, and she's also good-ish, quote-unquote, friends with Hajime. They're definitely close friends, but at times it feels like they're, like, you know, not mean towards each other, but, like, teasing towards each other almost.
Friendly rivals, maybe?
Yeah, things like that. Where like it was pretty much more that they started at the same time, I believe, so they've gotten close over time because of that. So, and Hajime, who, if you're in my Discord server, was the inspiration for the bot that I have in there. She is the motion team character person who is very much the tomboy in the group, and she's very much into like Sentai figures and like anime. Like she's definitely, yeah, she's like the otaku in the group. Whereas like the other ones might be into Moon Ranger, which is the anime that they kept referencing in this. But people like Hajime are like the big fans, the like big. So she's really much into that. Has all these figures and stuff. Claims that some of the weapons she has is for reference, but really she's just waving some of them around for fun, almost. But yeah. So she's pretty cool.
Who doesn't want to wave around a lightsaber sometimes?
One of them does sound effects. The Moon Ranger one did sound effects when she did it. So she had an actual sword in the office too. She tried to give it to Alba to hold for a second. Alba, it was like too heavy for her, so she had to block with a lightsaber. Yeah, that happened. So yeah, that's Hajime, and then you had Yoon, Alba. Now, Rin is supposed to be the art director. She's very sweet, almost like the motherly kind of type in the group, big sister kind of type, I guess, maybe. But pretty much the wife of Ko, almost. Like, there's a whole day off thing that I mentioned before where Ko's day off is sleeping in and Rin's day off is going to visit Ko to feed her because she knows she slept in.
I'm just saying, I'm still confused how that's gay.
In the anime original episode that was all written by the author has a whole extra thing about their relationship where Rin gets sick and so she goes home and Ko goes with her to take care of her, to nurse her back to health, and stays with her. And there's a whole thing where it's like, oh, feed me or whatever. Like, so she's like feeding her and stuff like that. So it's like an extra little fan, like relationship kind of fan service thing of that episode where it's those two together. There's a time where like Rin sleeps in the office overnight and gets convinced by Ko to try out sleeping in her panties too, which leads to fan service kind of awkward moment where Alba finds them both together on top of each other when they're underwears. It's like, no, this isn't what you think, but it's like, it pretty much is what you think kind of deal. And then she brings Ko an outfit for her interview because she's like, I know you're just going to wear your whatever fucking thing that you wore to work today, even though you have photographs to take and an interview to do, but because I'm your mother/wife, I'm going to bring you an outfit and do your hair for you. But don't worry, Shadow, it's not gay. It's definitely not gay. Don't worry.
Look, I don't understand, okay? I do this thing with my friends.
You bring your friends' clothes and do their hair for an interview thing?
No, my friend sleeps in and I bring him food.
Oh, I see. All right, well,
yeah,
my friends are terrible.
Listen, I'm not going to dissect whatever goes on in your life. I'm just telling you what's going on in this media, at least, which is very clearly pointing towards those vibes. Okay, so we're just trying to explain to you what's the implications of this manga with some of these characters, okay?
I got more information, Jeff.
Yeah. Speaking of relationships, so ships. We're going to talk briefly about some ships here, okay? Just based on these first two volumes, who we're shipping people
I'm a
with.
snooze for a bit here.
Okay, you don't have to be a part of this discussion, but ships. My own personal thing, obviously Ko and Rin, and then Alba and Hifumi, I always thought would be a thing and then like you had Hajime and Yoon together, and then Umiko and Nenechi. Those are like kind of what I consider to be what the series was kind of trying to establish as the pairs, at least at this point. And personally, I kind of agree with most of them, but I kind of, I obviously see that they're trying to mess around with like a couple of things like, what if Alba and Yagami kind of deals? I kind of almost felt like towards the beginning that maybe, at least in the manga, not so much in the anime, but in the manga, they were trying to like make you think that maybe Alba should be shipped with like all these characters in some kind of way. Because even Umiko, when they first meet, is like thinking about her like a animal that she could give food to like make happy and things like that. And like Hajime is like blushing about being her kohai and her senpai and stuff like that, and wants to like impress her. Things like that is kind of like how I felt about that. How did you feel, Remy, about some of either the implied ships or ships that you kind of were interested in?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt like in the first 2 volumes, sort of like just not quite sure who she was going to be with. Maybe Hifumi. Her college friends felt kind of
Ninechi,
like a
yep.
red herring.
Yeah.
Kind of like, oh, but look how close they are. They're not gonna get together. I think most of the focus that I liked was just on Rin and Ko.
Yeah, because that's very clearly, that is like the most canon relationship. I think that it's trying to really drive home to you. The others are kind of more of like, you kind of get the vibes, but it's not like directly trying to like hit. But Yagami and Rin's was like and that stays like that throughout like most of the series. I think those two, but the others, especially as they introduce more and more characters and the different positions people have and stuff like that, you kind of like, because this is the kind of series that you kind of keep that in the back of your head, like, oh, I kind of like this person interacting with this person more. That's so cute. Like that kind of, you kind of get that over time as it goes on. Like we said, that's not the core focus of it, but it's the implication of some of these chapters, you know, where like some of it's really just those two going out and like blushing about how they're interacting with each other and stuff like that. Hajime's, I always thought was hilarious, where she's like doing her best to like impress Alba as they go out to buy this pen for Rin, which Ko has only told them to do because she thinks she ships them for like a chapter. She's like, those two are doing a thing. Why don't I just send them on an errand to be together alone more? See how that goes. And then that was the whole thing where like Hajime's like nervous because she's never had a kohai before, but also trying to like be like, yeah, this is what you're supposed to do. Make sure to always get this kind of receipt. And pro tip number 1, don't forget your wallet. And then she like lost her wallet and then realized she also forgot her wallet. And then she stayed at like the lost and found area waiting for Alba to show back up with it. And it's like, wow, Alba's actually more responsible than me. What the fuck? Like, yeah. I liked that one. I liked Alba's confusion of who to look up to in the office, where she'll look at Ko, where it's like, she's like the character designer I really look up to. She does amazing art, but her work ethic is like very casual, sleep in your underwear, stay in the office. I don't know. She's kind of like whatever. And then Rin's like very organized, very focused, but like, you know, you kind of don't really see much of like what Rin does for. She obviously is like managing and like scheduling out things, but you don't really see like what Alba would obviously relate more to Yagami just in terms of like the art side of things, whereas Rin is more like what Alba might strive to be as a person, as opposed to like career wise or whatever. I don't know. That's something I always thought was like a nice little thing too, where she's like, who do I want to aspire to be? And in the later stuff, it's a big question of like how Alba wants to go forward when it comes to her art career, especially when developments happen later, which I'm not gonna spoil, but things happen, and there's a lot more, especially in the second season of the anime, especially where the first season is like introduction to the characters, the environment. Second season is we introduce some more characters and add in a bit of drama in between and development of these characters. And I always really like the second season more with that kind of stuff, just because like now we're kind of getting less into the slice of life focused comedy stuff and more into like the actual work career focused kind of thematic stuff, along with balancing it. Yeah. And especially now that we're done with that old project now they obviously the next arc, quote unquote. I kind of assume with this series, each arc is like each game they work on. So the first one is Fairy Stories 3, and then the next one is a game that you'll know about when you see it, but they basically make 2 games in the anime, the Fairy Story 3 and then one later called Peko, which you don't know about until later. But
Spoilers,
and then
damn.
well, you don't know what it is, you just know it's called that, okay? You don't know what it is. But what else was I gonna say? Yeah, pretty much the arcs I consider based on the games, and then there's an arc in the manga where it's actually just a prequel for like 2 volumes, where it's about Alba in high school with Ninechi and another girl that they knew that you meet in the next volumes, and about like how she ended up at Eagle Jump, which by the way, I didn't realize another thing. You don't even, in the manga, you don't find out what game they're working on until it's launching. You don't know what game they're working on is until it's like at the very end. The manga, they tell you in the first episode. Not the manga, the anime, they tell you in the first episode. At like the very end, they're like, we're actually working on the sequel to the very thing that you've loved all these years. And in the manga, you just don't even know until it's being released. Oh, this is Fairy Story 3. Which I always thought was weird because that's the series that she was inspired by. Why didn't you immediately say that? But I feel like maybe it was just because the author wasn't sure if they wanted it to be Fairy Story 3. Maybe they wanted it to be a different game.
Like they mentioned they mentioned it when her college friends joined, because they were talking about like the NDA and stuff that the debuggers had to take. But it was still like pretty late, where it's like,
that's the second volume still, because you don't even meet Umiko until the second volume.
I think my only issue with it is I actually didn't have a problem with the studio they work at being basically all girls, because it's a moe slice of life.
Yeah,
like
it's something to where it's like, okay, that's the story you get here.
Yeah, that's kind of what you're getting into. Like, it's not going to be the exact workforce, you know.
Right.
So that didn't bother me at all. The only thing that did, that was more of just an annoyance, because I understand kind of why it was there, is when they explain basic gaming terms in the manga. Because, I think
FPS?
either Ko or Umiko. Well, like, they were explaining NPCs.
Oh, NPCs? Yeah.
And it's like, okay, one, we know that Olba is a gamer, and that she's loved these games, but maybe Ko doesn't know that. Even still, I would think that if you hire someone for a gaming company, they should know a basic term like that. Maybe I'm being too general, but like,
no,
there's several of those things where it's like, these characters should already know that, and even if they don't, the characters around them should assume that they already know that, you know?
Yeah, that's something so I always ascribe to, like, explaining to the reader less so than the character, you know, where it's like, sure, if you're reading this, you probably already know about games, but maybe somebody who's reading this doesn't know about you. Maybe they just read other stuff and they're not into games, and especially not into game development, so maybe we gotta explain that stuff to them. I especially understood it in the context of explaining NPCs and like, these are key NPCs, and like in terms of like, this is how much detail these character models can get, and it depends on like the type of characters they are. I understood it more with that, but I also did feel like what you said, where a lot of it is more explained to the reader, and it does kind of like confuse you, because you're like, all right, I know she's starting off high school, but she's got to know what these things are. She's at a game company. You don't just apply for the game company and like not know some of these terms. I understand things like not knowing what an FPS is for like first person shooter when Umiko starts ranting about it. Maybe you know those games, but you're not familiar with the acronym because you don't play those kind of games, because she like plays fantasy games and stuff like that. But I feel like you still would have heard about it somewhere if you're trying to get into the game industry. I don't know. I definitely agree.
I fully understand that it's for the reader, but I still feel like there's maybe a better way to bring those terms up. Like, maybe, I don't know. It was one of those things where it's like, yeah, I know this is kind of a necessary evil, but maybe it could have been done better.
Yeah, some of it might be easy to do as like a quick note. I remember one of the funniest parts I think of the manga was them saying, so they're having a meeting, and if something goes wrong, something could go bad for the project. Like what? Like the game gets canceled. The game could get canceled? Well, it doesn't happen that often. And the note underneath is like, it happens all the time. It's very common.
This is happening right now as we speak.
Yeah. And it's like things like that. Those are nice little things. I wouldn't mind like notes like that. Occasionally, especially if you're trying to explain some game dev terms. But if you are going to start that, maybe it's like to a point where you have to get more into depth about some of that stuff. I would have been interested in things about like, because I'm not a character designer or 3D modeler at all. So when we're explaining things like the different like polygons that have to be rendered in certain cases or whatever, like they don't get fully into that. They just assume you can, like them as the artist kind of understand that. But meanwhile, they have to explain what an NPC is and stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
you know, like I don't know. Maybe again, part of it is because they were just explaining some of those to the reader, and other parts felt more like, well, that's not what we're here to dig into. We don't need to give you an actual tutorial on how to model characters and stuff like that, which actually sounds pretty fucking hard. So
yeah, some of the things like NPC could have just been explained by saying it. You know, I think obviously we're all gamers, but I think most people can understand when you talk about a game and you say this is a non-playable character, they probably understand what that means. It's a character that's not playable. You know, like a lot of the basic terms they're explaining are kind of you can already figure out. But anyway, that was basically it.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I was gonna say something else. When they were doing the what was I gonna say? The character designing process, I kind of felt like we kind of sped run when we were like, hey, you're gonna do a character model now that you've read the guide. And then like I think the next chapter, after like a chapter of being like, hey Fumi, how do I use this shortcut thing? It's just like, all right, here's my model. I feel like there'd be a lot more stuff. I feel like you don't just be like one chapter later, here's a whole character model. I feel like we're fucking up on how do I get these hands to work nice? How do I get this attached properly?
My polygons are clipping through the ribbon.
That was the other thing too. You'd be dealing with like error messages and stuff, but apparently she just ignored those as long as it rendered, and that's why Umiko showed up. Umiko's like, all your models we get have the same basic errors, and she's like, oh, nobody told me about that. I thought it rendered, so I figured it was fine. I was like, have you not used a computer before either? Which surprisingly, I have to wonder if like, some artists that get into some fields over in Japan probably never use some kind of computer before then, because maybe they're more pen to paper kind of artist kind of deals. Because I heard the same thing in the Animation Dormitory's YouTube channel, where I'm like listening to the newest episodes, and it's a conversation call that's recorded of a director / teacher teaching a new animator how to use like Clip Studio to rotoscope, and they don't even know the shortcut for how to copy and paste something. And I'm like, what? I feel like if you ever use a computer, you should know how to copy and paste, like Control-C, Control-V. That feels like the most obvious, but they had to like explain how to do that, or like how to shift click things and stuff like that. And I think we read that too with Familiar of Zero, the afterword. The author is just like, yeah, I've never used a computer before, but now that I've started this series of trying to learn how to use this computer to do digital art and stuff like that. So I have to wonder if like some of these are just like.
What did you say?
What?
What manga did you say?
Familiar of Zero?
Okay, so I heard fucking ReZero, so I'm like, wait a minute, hold on.
I think you're losing.
Right?
I think you're losing your mind.
You're losing it, Gramps.
You're losing your mind here. Tell us what you know about computers. Tell us what you know about computers. Name every shortcut. Go. Yeah, that's what I thought. You don't know how to use a computer.
Every operating system.
Install Autodesk right now and make a character model. Go.
I want a donut in Blender.
Right now. Yes, give me a Blender donut.
Guys, I can't.
By the way,
that would have been a funny first joke.
I thought that was. I thought that was going to be where this would start. when I first got into the series, I was like, oh, Blender, I used this before. They're going to start with a donut, right? Everybody starts with a donut. Character model? What do you mean you start with a character model? You just read the guide for it. Is that all I have to do? I just have to read the guide for Autodesk and I can make a character model?
Here's the joke they should have gone with. Her first model, like 3D model is a character model of a donut baker.
Now, see, we have to cook.
Now let's talk quickly about the first character design that she had to do. Her first assigned character design. So she first starts out by just doing background villagers for Yagami to get her used to that kind of process, and because they have to get the background villager characters ready to ship. At first, she takes a week or so for the first one, and she's like, okay, the next one you could do in 3 days. You're trying to negotiate with her, but maybe I could do it in 4 days. No, I need you to eventually get this to do one character a day. So you're getting this done like quicker and quicker. I can't be, that kind of deal with the character models. Then when she finally gets started with the character design, she's like, okay, here's your assignment. And she's reading it off to like Yoon and Hajime, and everybody's like, that's you. The character is you. You have to design you in the game. And she doesn't realize it. It even describes like, oh, this character has like pigtails in her hair. That's her distinctive feature. It's like, that's your distinctive feature as a character design thing. And she's like, literally Googling pigtails, and then goes up and says, what are you talking about? You have some right here. What are you doing? So she did not comprehend that it was her until she presented it to Ko. And she's like holding up the paper next to Alba, like comparing it to her. It's like, so this is design. She's like, wait a minute, is this me? Yeah. Did you just notice that?
It's me.
I thought that was funny.
In the video game.
I thought that was funny. I also did like it as like a thing where like, oh, I designed this character not knowing it was similar to me at all kind of deal. But then it's like when she realizes it's her, then she's like, okay, well, that's my character. She's like a more notable NPC character, but she dies in the game. So now I would not like my character to die in this game. And like Ninetchi in debugging says, I found a way to make it so that she doesn't die. You can't do anything else. And they're like, yeah, we got to patch this. So rip. In the anime, this is not in the manga. In the anime, Ninetchi also finds a way to look up the skirt of the characters to see their underwear, and at first she's like, see, it can't be a bug because I could see the underwear there. If I didn't see it rendered there, then it would be a bug, right? And Umiko's like, that's very clearly a bug. We have to report. But then the director shows up and she's like, you know what? That's not actually a bug. That's a feature in the game now. And she's like, why would you do this to us? Now we have to go to the graphics team and tell them to design make sure the underwear on the models are all designed and why would you do this to us? Do you know how much more time you add to this project? And then they have to stay overnight because of that bit. And Ninetchi's like, well, now I kind of feel bad for finding that. And I was just trying to have fun. But
I'm just gaming.
Because that's also a theme that happens in the manga where the director needs the scope knife, and Umiko is the scope knife, the scope gun. She gets into agreement with her later on where she's like, every time you change something with the specs document, I get to shoot you in the head with my airsoft gun. Or I think it was like a forehead flick. I get to do like a very hard forehead flick to you. And she's like, oh, but that would mean I won't be changing as much. She's like, yes, good. We don't want you changing it as much. You know how many hours that adds to us? You know how much we have to stay overnight on the weekends? What the fuck is wrong with you? So Umiko just kind of tries to like rein her in because she's like, listen, I'm with the programmers. We already got it bad enough as it is. I think when like Alba and Hifumi go to visit the programmers to give them donuts, they're like all dead. So they're like, oh, yeah, this is just kind of how it is with the programmers. Anyways, thanks for the donuts. Go buy some energy drinks. Maybe we'll survive the night. See if the director decides to add anything else to the project, I guess. So, I mean, there's definitely things like that it talks about and mentions and hints at, but doesn't really focus on too much, where it's like the scope of some of these projects are like, it's less so focused on this first game, but more so in like the later games of the series, I guess, where like they're earlier on in the process. So there's a lot more things that you can be like, do we really want to spend our time doing this feature for this game? Or do we need the this game mechanic to work like this, and then there's questions of, listen, I did it how you asked me to, and now you're telling me to change it to like this, and this is going to cause delays on my end, which is going to impact how I look at this company, and I don't want to look like that at this company. And it's like, the implications of like blindly allowing these kind of scope changes to happen and how it reflects on you as a worker, even though you're just doing what you've been asked to do. Things like that are kind of like more explored more later. Whereas like with this one, it's more, these first 2 volumes, it's more just like, listen, you gotta make sure that this works. We found a bug. That means we stay overnight. We gotta fix it immediately. I always kind of wonder with that. It sounded like any bug that they found was like, we gotta stay overnight. We gotta like spend the weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
There's like, in reality, you prioritize like, okay, is this a critical bug or is this like a minor thing we can fix later? If this is a critical bug that needs to be done tonight or something like that, like by Friday or whatever, sure. But if it's anything else, fuck you, I'll do it later.
Think about what you're saying. Like, if they find any bug, they have to do overtime, which means they didn't account for finding any bugs.
Yeah, exactly.
They have a whole debugging department that they hoped would be useless.
Well, they were running like temporarily, right? The debugs. And they said in the future they're going to be like a contracted thing. So then she can't join back through the debug, which is why she was a little depressed at the end. But yeah, that was like a whole thing. It was like, well, we brought in the debuggers. They're finding our stuff, but why?
Darn it, they're finding our stuff.
You're not supposed to find problems, guys. What the hell?
Which it's an oversight in the writing, but also it's extremely realistic.
True.
Like, I'm sure that the writer just forgot, like, oh wait, if every single bug means they have to work overtime, that means they didn't actually, have time to fix any bugs. They didn't account for that. But also, that's very realistic of actual companies.
I was gonna say, some of that is a question of, is this actually a writer forgetting a thing, or was this his actual experience at the company, and this is actually what happened?
This is very actually accurate, okay? This is a true story.
Like, when he started at Tri-Ace, did they actually just say, all right, start modeling? You never use a 3D program? Here's a whole character. Get going. Like,
I remember at the end, though, they mentioned, like, the shotgun shell was a true story, something like that.
Yeah, the shotgun shell was a true story. You mentioned that in the afterword, where, like, I always kind of wondered if some of these people were influenced by people at his time at Tri-Ace, or, like, people he knew that were game devs. Umiko,
probably,
as a person, feels entirely like someone you knew at the office. Like, she's Okinawan, which is already a big, unique identifier. Then she's an airsoft fanatic. And then she's the very strict programmer girl. I'm like, this is this is a person he knew. He must have known somebody just like this, right? Like, this is oddly specific for this character. Whereas, like, the other ones feel like more like planned out, like, oh, is this kind of thing? And like more tactical with like what they're supposed to be as like a design thing. Whereas maybe there were some adjustments made for Umiko, but Umiko, I still think, was probably heavily inspired by a person they knew in real life. I'd have to check through the afterwards of some of the other volumes to see, or like look through the there's 4 art books related to New Game, 2 of which are from the anime and 2 are from the manga, and he probably has explanations for some of the things in his manga art books. I know he explains his process in it. I see pictures of his process in it. I can't understand any of it because I don't know enough Japanese to read it yet. And Google Translate on your phone, it has ways to like scan stuff. It's dog shit at it if the text is vertical, which most of Japanese writing is vertical. So it makes it a little challenging. But eventually I will go through and read that. I'm hoping to eventually fan translate those art books because nobody has done that, and I doubt anybody will do that. But maybe that's a project for one day. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that Umiko definitely felt like somebody who I was always like, this is a person probably new, right? And then when I played Valkyrie Profile 2, I was trying to pay attention to the names in the opening credits to see if any of them match. Kazuki was one of the names. They was not the director, but they were, I think, a model person. So I was like, is this person what that director character was based on? Is this like a pervert at their company that they were like, hey, let's make them a director in this story? I don't know. But again, this is the unfortunate thing where I'm playing Valkyrie Profile 2 and I'm going to play The Last Hope or whatever, the Star Ocean game, and I'm not going to know which ones they design unless I just see Alba there somewhere in a village.
You put him in the game. You know,
I should pay attention to the characters in Fairy Story because there's like actual designs for all the characters in Fairy Story in like the art books. I should pay attention to them and pay attention to the background characters in like some of those games and see if I recognize them. Star Ocean, I probably think there's not going to be any because that's like a sci-fi kind of futuristic thing. Whereas Valkyrie Profile is pretty close to like, you know, JRPG fantasy, traditional fantasy style, you know? So that one's going to probably more so be where some of these models are inspired from. And we'll see how that goes. And what's the other thing? Oh, when Alba sleeps over the night, and it's trying to like be like, we don't want to make it seem like a sleepover, but also Alba would definitely treat it like a sleepover because as much as she tries not to act like she's a child, she very much is still childish.
Yeah.
So she shows
up. The term childlike.
She shows up and she's like, all right, my sleeping bag is a bear suit. And
it's
I think
like a kigurumi almost.
Yeah, and in the English official translation, they call it her, or was it in the anime? In one of them, they call it her hibernating bag, sleeping bag. So she's just like, she can walk around in it, and if she feels like it, she can just fall to the ground and go to sleep. And it's like a big bear suit. And she's trying to sleep in the office at first, and she's like, it's kind of fucking creepy sleeping at the office. I don't like it. And then she like goes crying to Ko, be like, yeah, I can't sleep. And Ko's just like, well, you can either sleep here with me, or you can go into that meeting room over there. She's like, okay, I'll go to the meeting room. And Ko's just at first like, oh, I got rejected immediately. Damn. All right. And then she just kind of sleeps in the office room. I always thought that was funny, where she's just like, she sleeps over and then she's like immediately scared of the place. And it's like, well, I hope that instills to you that you don't want to be sleeping over there. You don't want to get into the rhythm like Yagami has gotten. And the assumption is that if you're sleeping over, you get more work done. But I don't know, maybe it's just me. It didn't felt like they were getting that much more. Maybe they got a few more hours before they went to bed, but it didn't feel like it was worth it to like sleep overnight there. But I assume most of it was just because the train stopped running at a certain time. So if you're there at that time, you're not going home kind of deal. So
I guess, yeah.
Like Yagami said that she's basically kind of like a night owl. She prefers working more at night. I mean, I'm kind of the same way in some ways, but I don't know if I would like do that in like somebody else's office, or that feels weird to like sleep on the ground in like some office. Maybe that's just me. But for her, so it seems like it's more important because she works better alone, almost like not having to deal with managing people or like balancing like assignments and stuff like that. And that was probably a trait that she had before being a character team lead too, where like previously she just worked by herself and like tried to keep to herself, and Hifumi liked her at first because she was pretty quiet and kept to herself, and then one day she started talking, so Hifumi didn't like talking with her as much because she's like, now she actually wants to talk to me. I can't have that.
This is terrible. How they do it?
I used to like her, and then she started talking. What the fuck? Hifumi, I almost forgot to completely mention. We talked about Sojiro. But there's the funny chapter, the funny little like ends of chapters where she'll like talk with Alba and like consider things with Alba, like Alba's like, you should smile more, and then she tries it and it's like a little awkward, and then she like I think she sees a photo of her doing cosplay or something, and she immediately tries to like pay Alba to never tell anybody what she just saw. Oh no, it was her smiling in a photo with Sojiro. That's what it was. She was like, oh, that's you smiling. That's so cute. She's like, please don't tell anybody. Here's some money. She's like, what are you bribing me? What? And then she's trying, yeah, just smile. And just smile. Try smiling. And she tries to do it, and it's awkward. And then she goes home, and she asks Sojiro, she's like, Sojiro, do you like my smile? And he just goes into, like, his log that he sleeps in or something like that. He's like, yeah, whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, that's how a pet would act. That's how a pet would act. So
Me when I don't give Leroy my hamburger.
Leroy wants the hamburger. Give him the hamburger. What's wrong with you? Why would you keep it from him? And then Sojiro is what the author uses as like his mascot at the end of the chapter to talk. It's still what he uses. It's his profile picture on Twitter is that Sojiro character still. So that very much has become his mascot over time. I have to assume it's because he either does own or has owned a hedgehog. I know he has a cat because I believe I've seen photos of the cat, but I don't remember if I've ever seen actual pictures of the hedgehog. I just kind of assumed that he had one at some point, because otherwise I feel like if you're into hedgehogs like that, you probably have one or owned one at some point, but I don't know.
It's an oddly specific pet.
Yeah. But it's a cute one. They seem cute.
Yeah.
Okay. What else do we got here? Do we got anything else to say here? Any other comments? Oh!
Okay.
Yeah, what do you got?
No, you go first.
Well, my whole thing was going to go into like the industry stuff towards the end. It might be a ramble. So what do you got before I get into that?
No, you go first.
Oh, all right. Well, if you say so. So they get towards the end of the launch. Before they launch, they tell them to go to an actual like industry thing where they're like previewing the game and stuff like that. And that's the kind of stuff that I always kind of really liked. That and like the fact that they're waiting in line for the game and seeing all these people who really enjoyed the game and people cosplaying the characters from the game and stuff, where it's like they're looking at the trailer for the game, which they animate the whole opening. That's one of the insert songs for a new game on AMQ is the Fairy Story trailer that they show there is a fully animated sequence in the anime, and it's really cool. And so they're all watching it and they're seeing their characters, in the trailer all to life. And like Alba's inspired by it, but she's only been working there for like the last 6 months. The other people there have been working on it for like a year or more, and they've been working on it since the beginning. So it's like, damn, like this is like very moving for me as the new person on the team, but this is like even more moving for them because it's like they're all seeing like their baby like go out into the world, to publish their new game is finally out. Whoa, we set the title. Oh my god. And then they make several more games over time. Spoilers. I don't know if you knew this, but game companies tend to make games. More than just one, usually. But I don't know. So I liked that. And it didn't seem like Hyakimi meant to send them there to inspire them. It more like she sent them to the event to be like, you guys deserve a break kind of deal. We're at a good point with our development, so you can go out there and go check it out. But they come back and they're like inspired from it. And it kind of almost sounds like, oh, I planned that all along, kind of Yagami attitude. But it's like, it didn't feel like you planned it. It felt like you were just like, oh, okay, so it's that easy. Like she kind of like learned almost like, oh, so that really helped inspire them, I guess. Which, again, I feel like that seeing your kind of work they said that it got the AAA. So this is another question I always had. I don't know if their studio would be considered AAA. I don't feel like it would because you don't see that much of the team, but there is more departments there. And they do have a cafeteria, which in the anime is implied to be a cafeteria specifically for their company, not just like a shared cafeteria for the building. So I don't know if I know they're not indie because they have a publisher associated with them. They have Hobundo Games, which is Hobuncha. It's inspired by the publishing company that runs Manga Time Kirara Carrot. So it's inspired by that. Anytime you see the word Kirara in this manga in a couple of areas, that's because that's the magazine publisher thing, and Hobundo is as well. And they do the same thing in Idle Story. So they kind of like do nods to that. But so they're not indie because they do have a publisher and they have all this like funding and all that. So they're definitely not an indie studio. But I don't know if I necessarily consider them a AAA studio. Even though like their Fairy Story series seems to be pretty big. I don't know.
I think it's a AA is what they call it now.
A AA? Okay. AA
Batteries?
Yeah.
It's a like a studio that's not AAA, but it's not indie.
It's just kind of like an in-between kind of deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know later that kind of stuff plays a big part in like some drama later on about like the relationship between that company and the publisher company, because there's additional characters that are brought on later that are like, some of them are directors at this company and others are like representatives of like they work for both that company and that parent company almost, and then like there's a sister company thing. There's like a whole thing. It gets into some of the industry stuff. I like that. Oh no, wait. I had another question. There's a whole chapter where Alba gets locked out of the office because she didn't have her card, because she's new there.
Yeah,
and
but
Co forgot to give her a card.
She specifically gets locked inside the bathroom.
Well, so the bathroom is not in the office, so that you have to leave the office and go somewhere else to go to the bathroom. So she's not locked in the bathroom. She's like locked in the lobby outside of the office because they have to go to the bathroom. But my question is, when she goes in, when Co finds her and says, "Oh, so I have to get you your card because otherwise you can't get in, and we can't track your hours." I'm confused by that line, the track your hours part, because you tap to get in, you don't have to tap to get out. Clearly, so because she left. So how do you track your hours if you can just leave without tapping the card? How does that work? I don't know if that was like a problem with the writer, or if there's like some way that they're supposed to signal that they're done for the day. I don't, or maybe that's just to confirm that they went into the office that day, and then they can use that to be like, all right, so this person did show up. So
yeah, like it sounds like a more modern form of what were they called? Pay stubs, or not pay stubs?
Punch cards.
Like,
punch cards.
Punch cards, yeah. But that's just one of those things I assume is just lost in translation. Just something they do in Japan that we don't do here.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It is weird that like you have that and you don't have a bathroom connected to the office. You have to leave the office to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
What is that setup? That felt like a very weird... It felt like one of two things. A weird excuse to have that kind of scene play out with Alba being out of the office, or two, this is actually a weird, quirky setup in the office he was at, and he doesn't know why it was like that. So he just had that happen. It was either one of those two things. And like with some of the stuff, it's like, it's hard to say because like some of the stuff feels awkwardly written with that kind of like little quirks of it. It's like you ask yourself, well, why is that like that? Why would it be like that? But it's like sometimes these companies are just fucking weird, and that is just how it is. I don't know what to say. So it's like, is that a problem? Is that a writing flaw, or is that an inspired by real life thing? And I feel like it would kind of be annoying if the artist is just constantly like, yeah, this is actually a thing that I experienced. Yeah, this is the thing that happened. Or like, yeah, we have to sleep in the office overnight all the time or whatever, even though we were character designers or something. It's like, well, we can assume some of that stuff happens, but to, we don't need like, I don't know. Most of the people here in the West, their biggest immediate thing was the whole, how did she get a game dev job immediately out of high school? And most of the people questioning it are like programmers who are just like, I can't get a job right out of high school as a programmer. It's like, well, if you have a lot of experience doing programming for games and ship titles by then, probably, but maybe you could. But if not, they don't know if you can actually program yet because they can't fucking see how you program yet. So you go to school to get a degree, and in the process of getting that degree, you make projects in the meantime. So like, but with artists, sure, going to school can help, but it more so helps with building up your portfolio. Like, you'll have a portfolio ready by the time you're done with art school, or you should at least, I'd imagine, have a portfolio ready by the time you're done with art school.
If you write a good one, yeah.
Yes. And that's always like the big thing. And then like there's always the memes of like, oh, why is the whole office women? That's not how the game dev industry is. Like, yeah, it's Moe. What the fuck did you expect? You know what you got into here. Do you see the shapes of their faces?
Like voice love and being like, where are the strong female characters? Like you're reading a series that's for guys.
Yeah.
You don't read for that? That's what I read for.
Now, on top of the art that they do for all the chapters, the artist in like the first few pages of each volume, and like some of the first page of each chapter has like half strips and then like a big art thing at the beginning as like almost the thumbnail for the chapter. They use these kind of things over time throughout all the volumes to somebody who I saw on Twitter quoted it best when they were reading through some of the volumes. They were like, these are like fashion magazines almost with what the artist is doing, where they're like just constantly doing fan art of these characters in different outfits, and the whole cast of them doing different things in these different styles of outfits and stuff, which are never seen in the series. They're just in these fun little things. And he does the same with the Idol story, like chapter announcement arts that he does too, to where it's like, yeah, and I definitely notice it when I read the art books. They very much love fucking around with different types of fashion like references that they want to be like, ooh, this would be really cute if I drew all the characters in this kind of style. And they do this with like swimsuits or like New Year's outfits, or like I'm going to a fancy restaurant, what's the expensive dress I have them wear kind of deals. They do a lot of that, especially in the later volumes. So if you are really into that kind of stuff, I would highly recommend checking out some of that, because Shotaro Tokuno's art is fucking amazing. I really love it. Not just with the like general chapter art, but just their general illustrations are really good. This cover that I keep staring at while I'm talking about it, of the complete edition with Hifumi and Alba looking at you and playing games, it's fucking adorable. It's amazing. I love it. It's cute. It's the cute girls are in fact doing cute things. And that's all we can really ask of the world, right? That's all we
I feel
need.
like gaming and cute should belong together.
Okay, well, maybe when we do it, okay, it comes off as
No,
we're
in
just
general, not
maybe when us guys do it, it's not as cute because we're just here playing fucking Mega Man X, being like, how the fuck do I get this dash jump to work from the fucking side? How do I shoot this thing? Why the fuck am I fighting? Why am I?
There's 4 buttons on the controller.
Why am I
6.
fighting Sigma's dog? What the fuck? Listen. We'll have to adopt
That's you,
VTubers.
not
We
me.
have to adopt VTubers. That's how we become cute playing games. All right, we have to adopt VTubers.
Jap, I just be worse then. It just gets worse.
Listen, anything is possible with gaming.
No, it's
Or-
not.
Have you ever heard of gaming before? I don't think you
Hope
have.
see the mold.
That's an
Yeah.
NPC.
Yeah, name an NPC. The answer is you. You're the NPC. We know it.
I was gonna say Sting Chameleon, but that works too.
Sting Chameleon. I believe he's a key NPC, but thanks for playing. Thanks for playing.
Alrighty.
He would get more
generic
polygons. Okay,
net
he would get more
heavy.
polygons, more details. You would know this if you read New Game. It explained this. I don't know if you took notes, but
I don't know, man.
so how much of the anime did you watch, Arimia?
About 3 episodes, and then I had to do some work stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I
I
think it's
didn't
like
get very far. I wanted to get further, but
I think it's like episode 9 or 8 is the anime original episode. There's like no content from it that's from the manga in that episode.
Nice.
So when you get there, you'll
I'm
be
also
like,
watching the dub.
yeah, that's what I rewatched that for this week too. That one's also a thing where it kind of ignored Yoon's accent as well. I think they just kind of made her sound more like, how do I describe it? Almost like the pretending to be much more organized older sister than she actually is kind of deal. Is like that kind of vibe where like she sounds like she knows what she's doing, and then you hear her internal thoughts. She's like, I don't want them to know I got fat. And it's, yeah, and then Hajime's like antics with that was just like, I'm fighting with Ko in secret to like control the temperature of the office because I showed up in a tank top, so now I'm gonna fight with, and Ko's just like, well, I don't want my drawing tablet to overheat. It's like yeah, so they're like fighting, and then like Yoon tries to mess with it as well because she's like, I know what I'll do to get rid of my fat, I'll just sweat it off, so I'll turn up the thing too. And then Rin shows up, was like, what the fuck are all of you doing? Like, people are dying because of the fucking temperature changes you're doing. We're trying to work. What the fuck? And then she's like, none of you could use it anymore. Stop it. What is wrong with you?
I've
Yeah.
confiscated your temperature. Uh,
Rin and
Right.
Umiko are like the glue holding this place together from like falling apart. Okay, they're like the only ones with like the level heads here. Okay, I mean Alba a little bit, but she'll be like, "Oh, but I don't know if I can do this." Like she'd hesitate too much. Rin's just like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? You gotta schedule this like this. You gotta plan it like this. What do you?" And then Umiko's like, "Why would you ever introduce this feature? I'm gonna shoot you with my airsoft gun. Don't call me Ahogon," which I'm assuming the reason why she doesn't like being called Ahogon is because it's like an awkward Okinawan name inspired thing. So she just prefers to be called Umiko. I had wondered if there was like a specific reason, and when I looked it up, it sounded like it was just because it's like an awkward Okinawan specific name. So they just, for her, she's like self-conscious about it, I guess, is what it felt like. I didn't know if it was like close to some other term that she didn't want being said about her or something like that, if you know what I mean. So, yeah. So what else do we got here? Do we got anything else? You guys have anything you want to say? Anything else?
oh wait, I did say something. I remember now.
Yeah, what's up?
I said that you want to go. Okay.
Yes. What's the
So,
thing you want to say?
I kept saying Yagami's name, and now I'm just picturing this, but one of them's Kira.
Yeah, Light Yagami. Yes. Every time I say
Oh my
Yagami,
gosh.
Light Yagami. Listen, just I gotta show you the Netflix Death Note at some point, so then you can start calling him Light
Yes.
Turner.
I know about it. I know about it as a thing.
No, you
You
have
can-
to experience it.
I
So then
don't
you can
have
call
to.
you can call him Light Turner. You know I have the emote Light Turner, which is like a deformed face of Light Yagami, and it's the name Light Turner. Okay, that's then you'll just learn about that instead. But yeah, Yagami Ko. What were the other names? Toyama Rin, Aoba Suzukaze. So most of these names, when I looked into it, I don't remember them all off the top of my head. I think I was planning to make a video about it at some point, but all their names are like symbolic of something. And in some cases, it's like very on the nose. The author likes to do that at times where they're like pretty on the nose. In Idol Story, the person who hosts the survival show that they're on is named Aria Otoboshi, and Otoboshi just means sound star. She's literally like a world famous international music artist, and her name is literally music star. So okay, all right, we get it. Like things like that.
I'm also proud that goes with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's like some of these names are pretty on point with what they are, and I'm sure the same goes for some of them. I think some of them literally correlated to like seasons. I think Aoba or Suzukaze, something about that had to directly do with spring. And I'm sure the others are like kind of similar in those kind of ways. And Umiko's probably is as well. Some Okinawan thing, maybe, but maybe one of them has to do with like shooting or guns.
Also,
Okay.
Big Shot.
True. Now,
You don't get the reference though.
what favorite characters? I believe I heard Arimia's, and I'm saying mine. Shadow, what were your favorite character or characters from New Game?
I don't know. I didn't really have one.
You didn't have any character that you liked the most? None that you related
No.
to more?
No.
Not a single character?
Look, it's like the other anime we were watching before. I forget the fucking name.
Okay,
You know
there is
the
now
one.
currently a gun to your head, and you must pick a girl. Pick one.
Umiko is pointing an airsoft gun.
I will die.
Except you're wondering to yourself, is this an airsoft? You don't know. She just showed you an empty shell she
I'll
got from an
die.
American.
I'll die. I'll die. I'm sorry, chap.
You would rather die than pick one girl out of like the
Yes.
10 girls that you have to choose from. You don't want to pick a single girl to be
I'm
like,
so
yeah, they're...
indecisive. I can't.
Well, why don't you decide? Okay, which one do you think would probably play Mega Man?
None of them.
That's where you're wrong, and I can't believe you get this wrong. Hajime would obviously play Mega Man and probably have figures of Mega Man on her desk. I don't know
There's, like,
why
no
you would pretend
figures in
otherwise.
Mega Man.
What are you talking? All right, I don't even know where to start with that. I feel like you have been super sheltered and you have no idea anything about anything.
It's like
There
I'm
are
probably
absolutely,
a couple.
there are absolutely Mega Man figures. I can't believe you would even fathom that sentence. What are you talking about? First is mozzarella sticks, and now you think there aren't Mega Man figures in the world? Bro, my brother's probably got an amiibo of Mega Man. What do you mean? What are you doing?
That counts?
There's
Yes,
definitely an
Okay.
amiibo of Mega Man.
There are 100%. First of all, amiibos definitely count as figures. Second of all,
Okay.
there are 100% figures of Mega Man. I can't even believe.
Probably is.
I could
It
Google
just- I-
right
I
now.
can't-
First of all,
any of them.
Google.
I can't believe you. I can't believe you would actually say this sentence. Why would you say this? Anyways,
Hey, look, man. Is there any for Napalm Man? Exactly. That's the only one I care about. EXE.
there probably is. You could just Google it. You can figure it out. Anyways, I tried my best to get the favorite character out of you. I know you have one. You just don't want to say it for some reason. I don't know why. They're good girls. They're nice. They're cute. I don't know what. Anyways.
Oh boy, that's so. Alright, I wish I didn't know this, Chef. Why have you implanted this knowledge upon me?
What, Mega Man figures?
Yes, this is a certain level of cursed that will never get out of.
Listen, when it comes to all right, listen, you probably just don't know anything about figure culture in general, but most series, especially popular ones, have a ton of figures, some of which are not official, and you can very tell they're not official in some kind of way. This is where we have stuff like bootleg pages, which highlight bootleg stuff that gets made and sold. Those are things. So, anyways, that was New Game. Wow. Amazing. Volumes 1 and 2. I would, again, highly recommend reading more of the series. I believe the second season goes volumes 3, 4, and then I think a bit of volume 7, or maybe it just ends at volume 4. Because I know 5, and then I think maybe 6, or maybe it was just 5. 1 or 2 of those volumes is the prequel, which is not incorporated into the anime at all. Except maybe the interview stuff towards the end. I don't remember. But the second volume is kind of like, covering different stories between those volumes. And then afterwards, it's all original stuff, baby. There's a whole original stuff. And the series is done. The series is over. You can go and read the whole thing. All 13 volumes. You can read the whole thing. So that's where that's at. And it's all available in English through 7 Seas. So thank you to everybody who worked on that for bringing that over here in English. And if you did enjoy this and you want to see more of the artist's artwork, you can check out Komorebi no Kuni, Sunlight Kingdom or something like that. I forget what it was actually like loosely translated, because Komorebi is like a weird concept that's hard to translate. But anyways, there's a fan translation of that you can read if you really enjoy their art style and want to read another slice of life thing. If you want to read their current series, Idol Story, there are fan translations. There are fan translations of that, part of which I've contributed to, and then the other which the series with the fan translations is now all caught up to where the current chapters are. I helped translate from the.
Who's doing those fan translations for Idol X Idol?
Not all of them, but I did from like the second chapter to the 21st currently, and I'm still going to keep doing it past that, but those are the ones that I've fan translated for them, along with somebody else who was helping me out. They were doing mostly the typesetting, and I think they did the first translation, but then I took over after that because they don't actually know anything about Japanese. Anyways, I did the translations, so if you see a group called Never Again Scans, I helped with that, and then I'm going to keep doing my translation, but there's another group who also started at some point, Flame Subscans, who has gotten that series up to the current chapter, and they're probably going to be a lot more faster and better at keeping that up to date. But I will keep doing my translation as time goes on, so you can read about that story, which is the artist's currently releasing series. That releases, new chapters are once every 2 weeks, and then in between they have like a bonus fake Instagram post bonus chapter thing. So you get new chapters of that, and that is specifically about idol girls, specifically 16 different girls from all across Japan who are competing in a reality TV show contest survival thing, all as idols for singing and dancing in different respects. And you're following a former quote-unquote failed idol who like never fully debuted, and then her friend who she became a big fan of this idol after she retired, quote unquote retired, because she goes back into it, but she became a fan of another idol, and then it turns out that idol was inspired to become an idol from when she was an idol, and then they become good friends, and then they both decide to enter the contest together. So they're in this contest, and they're competing with them against 14 other girls. So there's 16 different waifus in that one, all of which have their different uniqueness. All of them are great, and it's very similar to New Game, where it's very much like these different collections of characters, and very much has implications of romantic relations between them. That is definitely a thing, and we applaud that. We applaud that here in the studio. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The only difference is this is not a 4-comma, and it is much more focused on drama than slice of life. It's got some cute moments, but it is primarily these like more heartfelt dramas, and it's got amazing art. The only drawback, I would say, is it's an idol manga where obviously you're not going to hear it because it's a manga. So you're not going to be able to judge their singing other than what they describe it as in it, which is something that people have mentioned in the comments. But the art for like how they move and how they look in the scenes and the pages, fucking great. Shotaro Tokuno is amazing with that artwork. So that is the current series. I am done with my simping of that kind of stuff. I will also say, because I forgot to mention earlier, prior to doing manga, they also did light novel art for a few different series, none of which were ever localized. I will not be doing fan translations of those because they didn't work on the actual stories at all, but they did the cover, like the art that goes throughout the light novels, and I think the covers as well. For there seems to be a theme with Shotaro Tokuno where most of the stuff he works on they have like English loanword titles. New Game is like what it's actually called in Japanese. It's not like called something else, like the words for new, Atarashi game or whatever. It's called New Game. And then Idol Story is the same thing. The first series they worked on for illustration was Survived 5. That was the actual name of it. And then like something called Ghost Light. Like this is and then Grimoire or something. But they have a couple others where they were like rom-com kind of deals that they worked on too. So they have a history with light novel illustrations, and then they had their start in manga with Komorebi no Kuni, and then New Game, which blew up and then got animes and was highly successful. New Game also has anthology comics. Only the first volume, I think, is fully translated. The others never were, which is another thing that I might do if nobody finishes that at some point. There might be some, but you can notice a trend with things that I would like to do. I would like to be somebody to help me get these things finished because people seem to have moved on from them. And I would like them to get translated. That would be nice. That'd be cool. So that's Shotaro Tokuno. Fantastic artist. I would highly recommend checking them out. Go check them out on Twitter. Go check them out on Comic Fuse is where they publish these days. And that goes out every week for free. The newest chapters are free, so you can read them on there if you know Japanese, or I don't know, visit your local video store. You can figure it out from there. I'm not your mom. I'm not the police. So you can do whatever you want in this world. But I will say to check out New Game. Check that out. Read New Game. Watch New Game. I think if I had to compare the manga, if I like gun to my head and I had to recommend one, I probably would recommend the anime over the manga just because of like the changes that were very clearly made in retrospect by the artist, where like it's very clear the artist was like, hey, what if you guys just introduced the director and the programmer like far earlier? And what if you explain the game they're working on as fairy story from the beginning? And what if you had like a cat character that like you could just cut to see them meow when you want to like jump to the next scene that's happening? Like a lot of that stuff works. And then there's like added stuff and some adjustments, and obviously the character expressions are a lot more, they do a lot more fun with them. So I would highly recommend checking out the anime at the very least. And then if you enjoy that, you can check out the manga. That would be the order that I would recommend things in. So, and that is New Game. Wow. Amazing. Anybody else have anything else they want to say before we wrap this up?
You know what? Actually, Jimmy would like exactly X8, and this is because I know too much Mega Man. In order to animate the characters, they actually got like actual models to do it.
actual, as in like physical, like figures or
Yeah.
people, or what do you mean by models?
Yeah, like figures, like figures.
Okay, so not only do they have Mega Man figures, they used figures to animate, is what you're saying.
Yes. Also, please play X8. I know X6 and X7 are bad, but X8's good. I swear.
Don't worry, stream. I'll definitely get to playing X8. It's on my list. I'm gonna do it. Don't worry. I'm gonna play it right now. But yeah, so that's where it's at. So, anything else we want to add, Ramia? You have anything else to say?
Nope, it was pretty good.
Ramia, who was best girl?
Cool.
That was Ko. Okay. All right. Well, there you have it. Shadow refuses to answer the question of who is best girl. He just can't pick. I think Shadow's
favorite girl is Cool.
I think Shadow just likes them all equally. He doesn't want to pick favorites. You know, he's like a parent. I don't know if I want to pick the favorite.
Need more on Team Hajime now, though.
You know, Hajime. You like Hajime? Listen,
Yeah.
Listen. She's in my server. You can do the Hajime thing, and she'll give you a face.
I'm good.
At some point, I'm gonna program her to work for the other characters if I stop being lazy. But I also have to find downloads of all their faces. There was somebody who did a whole collection of Hajime faces, and that's how I got all those. I think the same person did that for some other characters, but I don't remember. So I think I also made it so that you could do like Hajime and then a number, and then she'll just do that many. Yeah, there you go. So she'll just do random faces.
If I ever built a bot, it'll probably be like something similar to that. Like exactly Napalm Man quotes.
Listen, I built so many features into Hajime, the bot that I have in my Discord, that nobody uses, okay? You can do AniList. You can do AniList, and it'll, like, show stuff. Like, it'll search for... Okay, well, maybe that's not working. Maybe that's not working, but... Wait.
She's taking her time, you know, give her a little...
It was anime, not AniList, I see. And then you can, like, this got arrows to, like, flip through the pages. Oh my god, see, there's New Game Season 2. And then I can hit stop, and there you go. There you go, watch New Game Season 2. See? I had a way at some point. I think it still works. You can schedule watch parties with her. I think only I have access to it, but you can there's, like, commands to do watch parties, stuff like that.
I think there's a command for Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
There is. It's connected to a database. You could do YGO and then type in a name, and it'll also do a search. So, like, Karibo? And it'll show you, like, prices and everything. Oh my god, $0? What the hell? Ankaribo? I don't know what this is.
I think it's stuck in the OCG.
Gross. Wow, gear frame. Anyways. That was a New Game. Go check that out and let me know your thoughts if you ever do get into New Game. And that was that. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Thank you so much to everybody who has monetarily supported these memes over these time frames. For all the Twitch subs, the patrons, the YouTube memberships. There's not too many of them, but I appreciate all of you that are. So thank you so much. And we will see you next week. We don't know what we're going to be reading next week yet. We're going to be deciding that in the server because we're going to be doing a vote. We're going to have to do a vote because Nyan didn't want to pick something for next week. So we're probably going to do a vote to see what we want to read next. And anything that we did read during this like round of us picking stuff is also things that we can elect to read more of if we wish to. So, if Justin wanted to bring up I Am a Hero as a thing that we want to continue, he's allowed to do so. Doesn't mean it's going to win, but he's allowed to do so. And the same goes for New Game, which I may bring up in a vote in the future. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, we'll wrap it up here. So, any last words we want to say before I end the stream? Thank you to the Ducks in the studio for your contributions to the podcast. All right.
Play X8.
Play X8. That is what he says. All right. You do that, chat. Goodbye, gamers. Goodbye, gamers.